Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mayor and City Council combined meeting Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. If you'd please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Please show Mayor Pro Tem Miller absent today. She is having a medical emergency, so keep her in your thoughts. Next up, we have approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from September 3rd, 2025 and September 8th, 2025 regular meetings. I'm going to go, does anybody have questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion in regards to it.
Motion to approve.
I'm going to give it to Nick, or Councilmember Colin.
Nick is fine.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carries. Up next, we have some introductions of new employees here at the city and city officials that need to be sworn in. I'm going to do this one by one. First up, we have Director of Planning and Zoning, Andrew Gray, if you'd join us on up here. And then please stick around for pictures afterwards. You guys up after I do all the swearing.
I suppose. Say welcome aboard.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Andrew Gray,
I, Andrew Gray,
do swear that I will support the Constitution,
do swear that
and I will be faithful and bear true allegiance,
I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
and I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice, execute the office of Director of Planning and Zoning, according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Mr.
Thanks for
Mayor.
coming on board.
Thank you.
If
for
you don't
having
know
me.
Andrew, he's from Carroll County Planning and Zoning. We're glad to have him here in Taneytown. He's gonna make some. Maybe he's got big shoes to fill. I'll
Thank you, Mr.
bring you back up for pictures here in a minute.
Sounds good.
Next up, we have Executive Administrative Assistant Mackenzie Albin. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Mackenzie Albin,
I, Mackenzie Alvin,
do swear that I will support the Constitution,
do swear that
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
I will
to the Constitution and laws thereof,
and the Constitution and laws
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of Executive Administrative Assistant according to the Constitution and laws of this state. Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Stick around for pictures. Next up, we have Officer Klezek. If you'd please join me up here. Right hand and repeat after me. I, Neil C. Klezek,
I, Neil C. Klezak,
do swear that I will support
do swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance,
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance,
support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
and I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the position of police officer
execute the position
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
Glad to have you on board. Welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So, here, we'll get a police picture real quick, and then I'll call everybody back up. Council, do you guys want to join us? Oh, sorry, I have one more. Apologies. Thank you. He wasn't on the, I forgot about that. Sorry, I do have one more. While Bob has been with us since May, we are going to issue him the oath of office. Bob Jones, if you'd please join me up here. Right hand, repeat after me. I, Robert Jones,
I, Robert Jones,
do swear that I will support
do swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
and I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
I will
without partiality or prejudice,
without
the office of Director of Economic Development,
execute the
according to the Constitution and laws of this state. Or Bob, I know you've been here, but glad to have you. So I'm gonna bring police up first, and then we'll get a picture with everybody. And council, you guys are good to start heading up here if you want to get.
Not forgetting anybody?
Okay, it's okay, Councilman Kalinack.
Kalinock, colon. One day. Maybe. I'm not optimistic.
Yeah.
Go. Okay, ready, everybody? 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Nice. Thank you. You want to stay up here? I'm gonna get a picture with everybody. Everybody else, come on up.
I need some on this side. Hey, Bob, can you come on this side and just squeeze in a little bit more? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay.
So we'll start with
Yep. So Nick.
Oh, wait, what?
still council. One of the characters that. Yeah. Bob next.
Bob, turn your body this way.
Everybody, thank you guys for coming out tonight. You guys are good to go unless you want to stay for the meeting. I do have to warn you, it's going to be rather long. Take a, yeah. Okay, up next, I have proclamation for National Community Media Day. I'm gonna read it and then I'm gonna invite you down after I read it. Yep. Let me take a drink here. It's been a long, long day. Whereas the community, and this is a proclamation for the National Community Media Day. The proclamation reads as, whereas the Community Media Center of Carroll County provides community members, nonprofit organizations, schools, and government agencies with the resources to produce and distribute digital media content of importance to their local communities, and whereas the Community Media Center plays a vital role in civic participation by providing coverage of municipal meetings, local elections, and community events, and whereas the Community Media Center Community Media Center partners with local schools and colleges with internship opportunities and celebrates our student athletes with CM Sports Nets Awards, winning coverage of local sports, and is developing CM Sports Net Plus, a live streaming service featuring coverage from every Carroll County high school stadium and gymnasium. And whereas the Community Media Center has established Channel 18 as the first local cable access channel in the nation to provide 24/7 coverage dedicated to local sports programming. And whereas the Community Media Center works to preserve our local history, provide a means for diverse communities to tell their stories, and empowers individuals to create content to inform, connect, and improve the quality of life for our residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that on October 20th, 2025, is hereby proclaimed as Community Media Center Day in the city of Taneytown, and all residents are hereby called upon to promote the importance of community media, the services and training available at the Community Media Center of Carroll County, and the program available on channels 18, 19, 23, and HD-1072, and online at the communitymediacenter.org. In witness hereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Taneytown to be affixed to this proclamation. If you please join me up here. Council, will you guys want to get in on this?
Great. There we go.
Up next, we have reception and delegation, DeLon and Stain, Michelle Mills, and Addie Blickenstaff. Nice. Presentation of fiscal year 2025 audit. All yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us. My name is Michelle Mills. I'm an audit principal at De Leon and Stang, and I was responsible for overseeing the fiscal year 2025 audit.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Addie Blickenstaff. I am an audit manager with DNS, and I was responsible for the day-to-day engagement for the audit and communication with Barry.
For tonight's presentation, I know you have a complete draft of the audit. We have prepared an audit dashboard of things that we think are important for you to know as those charged with governance. We're going to start with the first few slides. We're going to take a government-wide perspective, and we're going to start with general audit information. As you're aware, management is responsible for the financial statements. We, as your auditors, are responsible for planning and performing the audit and making sure that the financial statements are free of material misstatement and issuing an opinion on those financial statements. Under bullet point number 1, you'll see that the draft has been prepared with an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which means it's a clean audit report that the financial statements were fairly stated. We found all transactions were properly supported. We're also required to share with you if there have been any changes in accounting principles. And during fiscal year 2025, the city was required to adopt GASB 101, and that was requiring the city to recognize and report liabilities for sick leave and comp time. And that was to be done as a prospective adjustment. So what we did was we recorded, again, the cumulative effect of this was a $72,000 adjustment to record those previously unrecorded liabilities for sick leave and comp time. The next item, we're required to communicate if we had any difficulties in performing the audit, and you'll see here that we are sharing that we had no difficulties and there were no disagreements with management. Barry was extremely well prepared and responded very timely to all questions. There were no audit adjustments during the fiscal year 2025 audit. In addition, we did not identify any material weaknesses in the internal control structure of the city. And again, the last bullet point, which we have a few slides on towards the back, the city was subject to an alternative compliance examination similar to last year due to the ARPA spending. Any questions before we move on?
Are we going to go into what that last one means?
Yes.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple different things on it.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, we're going to start looking at things from a government-wide perspective, and we have a few financial highlights. All of this information can come straight from the audit report, but we're looking at the city combined. The government-wide total assets were $52.2 million. The government-wide total liabilities were about $12.3 million. And the city's total net position was $40.3 million, of which $6.7 is restricted for future capital infrastructure and loan reserve. Overall, there was a change in net position of an increase of $1.5 million. Under bullet point number 5, the city's cash deposits were fully collateralized as required by state law. The city contributed $384,000 to the Maryland State Retirement and Pension System for the employees during fiscal year 2025. Your total debt payments due within the next year were just over $967,000. And your ARPA expenditures during fiscal year 2025 were about $1.8 million. Lastly, there's about $115,000 of the ARPA funds that will be deferred to next fiscal year.
Here's a quick snapshot. As Michelle mentioned, the city-wide assets are $52.2 million, and here it is in a pie chart, so you can see by the green at the bottom, the city's capital assets net of related accumulated depreciation comprise 73% of that total, or just under $38 million. If we go counterclockwise, you'll see that restricted cash is approximately $7.1 million, or 14%. Unrestricted cash is just under $6 million, or 11%. The city has a small balance of other assets of about $26,000, and then receivables or amounts due to the city at year end of just over $1.1 million. On the opposite side of things, this is a breakdown of the government-wide total liabilities, which were $12.3 million at June 30, 2025. In that light blue color, you'll see that the city's debt obligations comprise 67% of that balance and equal $8.2 million. In the top left is the net pension liability of just under $3 million, or 24%. And then accounts payable and accrued expenses at year end were a little bit over $1 million, or 8% of the total balance.
The next few slides are going to take a fund level perspective, and we're going to start with the general fund. We are required to report the general fund balance into several categories, and we've listed the 4 categories that were applicable in fiscal year 2025 for the city. Non-spendable fund balance was just over $16,000, and it represented prepaid expenses. Your committed fund balance was just over $284,000, and committed because it was by resolution, and that is for park impact fees. Assigned included non-cancelable lease obligations and the police asset forfeiture account, just over $31,000, and the remainder is considered unassigned at $3.1 million. Your general fund total revenues were $6.7 million, and that was a decrease of about 8% from fiscal year 2024. The general fund total expenses were $7.1 million, and that was a decrease of about 15% from fiscal year 2024. Overall, there was a deficiency of just over $405,000 compared to a deficiency of just over $1.1 million in the prior fiscal year.
On this slide, you'll see the breakdown of the general fund's revenues year over year, the darker blue color being fiscal year 24, and the lighter blue being fiscal year 25. As we can see, the tax revenue took a slight increase from $4.5 million to $4.8 million. Licenses and permits remained fairly comparable year over year. The big decrease occurred in the city's intergovernmental revenues, decreasing from $2.4 million to $1.6 million. And this was due to the fiscal year 24 having park grants and over $1 million in ARPA funding and related projects. Small service charge balances of the general fund, and then other revenues of about $104,000 for fiscal year 2025. Here's a quick look at the general fund expenses by department. So we can see that the general government expenses did increase from just over $1 million to $1.4 million. Public safety also saw a similar increase year over year. Public Works saw a decrease from $2.5 million to $2.3 million. Recreation and Culture had a large dip, but again, as I mentioned, that is due to the ARPA funding and ARPA-related projects, and there'd be a heavy hit of that in fiscal year 24. Economic development expenses remained comparable year over year, and your debt service representing your interest and principal payments were comparable at about $120,000. Any questions there before we flip to the utility fund?
Questions from council?
Okay.
All right, the next few slides are going to take a look at the utility fund. The total net position for the utility fund at the end of fiscal year 2025 was $26.3 million. $16.8 million was net investment in capital assets. A small balance restricted for the wastewater treatment plant loan reserve. And then $6.7 million, as we mentioned earlier, was restricted for future capital infrastructure. And the remaining balance, $2.8 million, is unrestricted. Total operating revenues were $3.3 million, and that was about $94,000 increase over the prior fiscal year. And the total operating expenses were about $3.7 million, again, an increase of about $114,000 from the prior year. Our non-operating revenues were $2.3 million, which included $1.8 million of ARPA funding, benefit assessments of about $168,000, and then your settlement with PFAS of just over $101,000, as well as investment income of $266,000. Your non-operating expenses, which was interest expense, was just over $288,000. Overall, there was net income of $1.6 million compared to $915,000 in fiscal year 2024.
In a similar manner, here is the utility fund revenues year over year. So we can see the utility fund charges for services did increase slightly, but remained fairly flat year over year, just over $3 million. The utility fund does have rental income, which was about $142,000 for fiscal year 25. Intergovernmental revenues increased significantly due to increased ARPA funding in FY25 as compared to the prior year. Benefit assessments at least doubled at from $65,000 to $168,000. And then, as Michelle mentioned, there was $266,000 of interest income, and the majority of that miscellaneous revenue is due to the PFAS settlement money that was received during the year. And here's a quick snapshot of the utility fund expenses. Again, high level, almost everything is fairly comparable, just looking at where the bars are ending. Salaries did see a slight increase. And then the largest expense of the utility fund is its depreciation expense there towards the far right of just over $1.1 million.
Our audit was performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards. And when performing an audit in accordance with government auditing standards, we are required to look at the city's internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. And we are required to communicate anything that is deemed to be a material weakness. So we have provided here on the slide what the definition of a material weakness. It's a deficiency or combination of deficiencies in internal control such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement will not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. We did not identify any material weaknesses in internal control during fiscal year 2025. As I mentioned, we are also required to look at the internal, look at whether or not there were any issues of noncompliance, and we did not identify any issues of noncompliance required to be communicated.
Slide on the city's alternative compliance examination. Again, just as a little bit of background, when the ARPA funding came to all the municipalities, the OMB allowed these municipalities to not do a full-blown single audit, kind of a scope-down approach, because they recognized that the receipt of this funding is what was triggering them to all of a sudden have this extra reporting requirement and this audit requirement. So we did an examination of the city's ARPA funding. We will issue a report on this. And in accordance with our examination, we examined the city's compliance requirements of activities allowed or unallowed and allowable cost and cost principles in relation to your ARPA funding during the year in accordance with the 2025 compliance supplement. You heard me say that we will issue and we have not issued, and that is because the 2025 compliance supplement is currently in draft form, and we have to wait for the federal government to release that and finally approve it so that we get the green light to issue that report. This isn't just a Taneytown matter. This is anyone who is getting any sort of federal audit at the moment needs that compliance supplement. But we did not find any instances of noncompliance, and in our opinion, the city complied in all material respects with these requirements during FY25. We just are unable to produce that report at the moment. Be the last year for this, as there'll only be about $100,000 of ARPA to spend next year.
Yep, so it won't trigger it, right?
Yeah, yep. Unless you get some new federal grant.
Would be nice.
Yeah,
Trigger point was $750K, right?
Yes.
150. Yep.
Yeah.
Questions?
Questions, comments, concerns from council? I'm looking at the finance guy at the end of the table.
No, I mean, a clean report is great. I mean, I guess the only question that I would have is, do you guys have an opinion on our liquidity position?
Or an opinion on what?
On our liquidity position, like relative to, I guess, other municipalities, how is our cash on hand compared to, I guess, other municipalities? Like, do we sit at a good level? Do you think, is that even an opinion that you guys would have?
It's not a required note disclosure for local government. It is a required disclosure for a nonprofit organization. So it's not covered in your report.
Okay.
You can certainly look at your cash positions
Yep,
compared to your
I looked at it.
liabilities.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to see if CPA could give any opinions on it.
It's all perfect in my world. Anybody else? Additional questions, comments, concerns? Well, I appreciate you all. Do you have anything additional to add?
I don't think so. I'll just highlight as well, as the one managing the engagement, Barry is absolutely wonderful. And if all of my clients delivered and responded to things like she did, my life would be a lot easier. And I think it's very important to note that when Michelle said in the beginning that we had no audit adjustments, that means the books and records that you guys are seeing are actually reliable. Because we come to these things sometimes and have a long list of things to report. So, yeah,
Nice.
you're in great hands.
And then I'd also like to just comment, implementing the new GASB did require a lot of work on Barry's part. And she was so thorough. I mean, again, I always love when Barry's the first one in the queue, because again, we have many municipalities that we work with. Barry's the first one in the queue. She always sets the bar high for everybody else because her analysis is great and she puts a lot of thought into it, and she doesn't look for other people to give her answers. She's already taken it, analyzed it, reviewed it thoroughly, comes back with really relevant questions. I mean, she really is a star.
Yep.
Again, Barry, as always, doing a tremendous job. Again, city policies, nobody can send emails to Barry during the audit period. I know you focus really hard now. I know you focus really hard on it. You do a tremendous job. Again, thank you for your work, Barry, and thank you guys for coming out.
Just a
Thanks,
quick,
guys.
Enjoy your
quick
evening.
procedure note. We do need this to be approved by.
Ah,
the end of
that's
the month,
right.
And
Yes. That's
typically, and I think let this slip because of the
I do have one
combined
edit
meeting,
for you
so-
all.
Okay.
It's nothing major. City Council, Councilmember Tillman is no longer on City Council. That's the only, and I'm not sure if that matters
No,
enough
I
to
think
change.
The listing should say as of June 30. So
It does,
As
yeah.
long as that was reflective as of June 30, that's,
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Then we're
so-
good? That sounds good then.
we could put a little asterisk by it and say effective subsequently, and he resigned if you feel that's important.
Indifferent on it, as long as it doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Preference, Jim? Barry?
I think as is, he was here at the time of the audit.
Cool.
Sounds
Thanks.
good. Thank you all.
Appreciate you
Appreciate
guys.
it. Quick 3-minute break as Chambers clears a little bit. Thank you guys again, and Barry, as always, tremendous job. Had to tell Nick you couldn't send any emails for. Okay, clear out faster than I thought it was going to be, so we're going to go ahead and calm the 3 minutes. Let's go ahead and proceed forward. What I got here. Council member statement regarding conflicts of interest on agenda items.
Didn't we need to do a motion to
Oh,
approve the
you're-
draft?
Yeah, we do. Jim, you ready for that?
If you want to do it now, I was just noting on my agenda at the bottom to make sure we got it, but we can do that now.
Yeah, let's knock it out now.
Yeah, that's fine. Looking for a motion in regards to accepting the draft as presented.
To approve.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And all those opposed, nay. Carries. Jim? Up next, we have council member statement regarding conflicts of interest on agenda items. Would any council member like to make a statement today? Hearing none, I am proceeding forward. I am now opening up public comment pertaining to agenda and non-agenda items. As we proceed through the meeting, if you'd like to comment on a specific agenda item after it has been discussed by council, please sign up with the city clerk and you will be asked to come forward at the appropriate time for that discussion. And now, public comment is open to agenda and non-agenda items for anybody who would like to make a public comment.
I apologize, I didn't bring my glasses today, so I may be moving a little slow. My name is Dave Bowie. I live at 106 Flanagan Drive. I prepared a statement for tonight. It's not up for discussion, question, or opinions. It's directed at the code of conduct of a city official representing the town in an official capacity. I come to you not just as a citizen, but as someone who has spent years preserving and celebrating Taneytown's history. I've researched our parks, families, businesses, and landmarks so that future generations know where they came from. That work is not about me, it's about the city. I attended an event on September 11th at Trinity Lutheran Church. It was titled Designing Inviting Streetscapes. The flyer, which everyone has seen, describes a program about enhancing businesses visibility, and community pride. What I witnessed, however, was not a vision of Taneytown, not a plan, but a critique of our buildings and repeated comparisons to Frederick. That's not pride, and that's not really vision. When I raised my concerns, the city manager did respond to my email in writing, and he admitted that he had no firsthand knowledge of the event, no direct account, yet still chose to defend the presentation and diminish my concerns. He leaned heavily on hearsay and positive feedback from others rather than addressing the substance of what I experienced. What struck to me the most was not the disagreement, we can always disagree on things, but his dismissal. Taneytown deserves better than dismissal. The city manager wrote that he appreciates my efforts, but differs on the government's role in preservation. Let me be clear. Preserving our heritage, treating citizens with respect, and planning for the future, honoring our past is not optional government roles. They're essential. Maryland law, federal preservation law, and best practices across the nation clearly state that local government is the cornerstone of historic preservation. We've already seen what vision looks like in Taneytown. Bollinger Park is an example of turning farmland into a natural preserve that reflects our rural identity and civic commitment. That was the government acting with foresight. Why should our Main Street, our cultural story, not be treated with the same care? Finally, my concerns also include the argumentative tone and lack of respect shown toward me during that event. That was not just discourteous, it was a breach of code of conduct, expected of a city official representing Taneytown in an official capacity. I do not need third-party confirmation to validate my emotions. I have requested an email apology from the city manager and the economic director, but I have not received one. I have much to offer the town. In return, all I've ever asked for in the 30-plus years is respect. At this event, I did not feel that respect was present. So as I close tonight, I again call for that direct written apology from the city manager and the economic director. Without respect, there can be no trust. Without trust, there can be no progress. Taneytown's story is worth telling, and it deserves leaders who carefully tell it. I also request that this statement be formally entered as an official record of tonight's meeting as a code of conduct concern. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jim, so let me start off, historically for council, how things get entered into the minutes.
I was going to say, can I say something about the statement? Because I was there.
I'll get there in just a minute. I just want to,
Okay.
I want to cover as far as how it goes into the minutes. Again, council is always free during a council meeting to edit the way that the record is recorded or the way that they conduct the meeting. But historically, for other concerns that have been brought before the council, what is essentially noted into the minutes is resident has expressed concern. Like, for instance, this is how this would kind of play out language-wise. Resident has expressed concern over conduct of city manager and economic development and their treatment by those employees. That's basically how I'd read into the minutes. Clara, I'm correct on that, right? And that is historically how minutes and how, again, residents, if they come and say something, that's how it's entered in there. If you've ever seen you guys have all seen our minutes, but they're brief synopsises of how the meetings have gone. They're not detailed. They're not a detailed explanation of every word said in the meeting. My understanding is that Mr. Bowie does want, again, his statement basically put into the minutes. my recommendation is to proceed how we've proceeded, which is the synopsis. Council is always free to change that, and I'll open it up to discussion first, and then we'll go back to that. Harry, or Councilmember Mead?
I disagree with the characterization of the economic development meeting that was just given. I attended that meeting. Bob was courteous in every respect that he could be. There was, I hate to say it, one belligerent person in the room, and he was just here. The rest of the room was kind of saying that he needed to chill out because he really seemed like he was going in on an attack to Bob. So that's how that economic development meeting went. Yes, he did make a lot of comparisons with Frederick. Yes, he talked about the Main Street architecture, but from an economic development perspective, he's trying to make Main Street attractive to people to come. Frederick is a good example of a downtown area that's attractive for people to go and participate in businesses. So they are a good place to at least get some general ideas. Of course, it's going to be different. They're a much larger city. But the things that he was talking about, like preserving architecture, featuring architecture, that all has to do with historical. So again, I completely disagree with the characterization of what happened at the economic development meeting, and I'm sorry that he left without being able to answer for it, because honestly, it was a complete mischaracterization of what happened with Bob, and I would absolutely stick up for Bob in this regard, no matter what.
I do want to add something. I probably actually should have started with this. Mr. Bowie did come to me with his concerns after going to the city manager with his concerns on Bob. His next place was to stop with me. He sent the email about the conduct about the city manager and the economic development director. From what I could tell from the email sent, there was nothing egregious. Again, it was mainly explaining, Jim was explaining that he doesn't have knowledge, he wasn't there at the event, and that, he can't just base punishment off of Mr. Bowie's word, essentially. That again, I will say, from going to people who were at the meeting and talking with them after, the report that came from residents who were there and Councilmember Mead was that the conduct was appropriate. He was doing what an economic developer does. So, in my response to Mr. Bowie, it was essentially that I had found nothing to warrant any kind of adverse action to the city manager or economic development director, nor from my position would I ask them to issue an apology. My belief is that's based on the individuals in their offices, unless there was some kind of major malfeasance or misconduct. That's not going to be something issued from the mayor's office to the employees to have them apologize to somebody, especially a written apology. And again, from my understanding of the incident, from my understanding of the event, from my understanding of the email, I just don't see anything that shows that our employees were, maybe aggregates. Again, they weren't attacking Mr. Bowie. They were responding to his inquiry.
If anything, the crowd was harder on Mr. Bowie than Bob was.
The city has had a long relationship with Mr. Bowie, and one thing that he said was true. He has been a very valuable asset in providing history for the town, but unfortunately, our ability to work with Mr. Bowie in the past has been difficult, at least. So this is nothing new or something that has changed or just arrived. It's something that we've been struggling with for many years. So I think we consider the source of the complaint, and the citizens will recognize that maybe we didn't get the whole facts.
Councilmember Collins, did you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know. I've heard, he said, she said about it. I'm largely indifferent just because I don't know who to believe. I don't think the city should necessarily have to issue an apology. It sounds to me like it's just a clash of personalities. I know Bob can be direct, but so can Bowie. The only thing I really want to say is that I just want to make sure that the city does make a commitment to try and treat people with dignity and respect, which I think we do a pretty good job of that as a general rule. That's really all I have to say about the issue, though.
Yeah. And that's kind of, what I explained in my rebuttal in the email was that, our ask is mainly, again, we can't go off of he said, she said as far as punishments or anything like that, or telling people to issue apologies. And this is, air quotes, my ask was everybody play nice in the sandbox. Again, we're all in it to better Taneytown. There doesn't have to be this back and forth with each other. There's going to be differences in opinions, and there's going to be differences in how those are presented.
And some people aren't going to vibe.
No. And again, I will say what some people find offensive isn't necessarily offensive to everybody. Again, somebody being direct with you isn't a slight against you. That is them giving their opinion. And that's how I kind of took this unfortunate circumstance here. Is again, Bob is a direct person. And again, just from accounts that I've heard at that, I really don't see anything egregious. And again, the city manager's emails, if council wants to see them, he can send them. He didn't send them out beforehand, but he can send them out. They're nothing wrong is happening there.
I would appreciate if council would take the time to read the email chain.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that Mr. Bowie feels slighted, but I don't, in my mind, and unless I see something egregious, I don't think we have to issue an apology, and I'm also indifferent to putting the full statement in the record. It doesn't matter to me one way or another.
I would just argue, again, we've had this before where somebody's come and, made a complaint against an employee. My thing would be to treat it as every other complaint, which is the summarization. There is a live video meeting if he wants to share it out from social media about his statement and everything like that, and I don't think anybody has any complaints or concerns. Is council okay with our normal summarized
Yeah, I am.
statements?
I'm good.
Sounds good. And again, Jim, if you could get that email out to council after the meeting. Sounds good. We are
Sorry,
proceeding.
can I ask, do you agree with the characterization that the mayor and Councilmember Meade gave?
Well, I did not attend the event to see.
Right, yeah,
the-
you were
right.
We were at the same event.
I guess the
But,
characterization of the email.
Yeah.
Again,
So,
'Cause I mean, you specifically were like, I'd appreciate it if we got eyeballs on it ourselves. So like, it seems to me like you have some opinions on it.
I felt like I responded appropriately and professionally to Mr. Bowie's email. I, certainly respect his perception and his feelings on the matter, but, I don't believe my response was the attack that it has been portrayed as. But I would like you to be the judge of that,
Sure.
and if you feel differently, I'm more than happy to have that conversation. So. I did not forward it to you in advance because I wasn't sure, considering the guidelines for public comment, the level of detail that would be brought up tonight. But since it was, I'll send you some lengthy emails.
No problem.
thank you, Jim. Additional public comment pertaining to agenda or non-agenda items. Seeing no movement on the floor, I'm proceeding forward. Resolution, ordinances, and agreements. Introduction, ordinance 21-2025, amendment to restricted industrial district. Jim, do you want to start us off on this?
Sure. This, we've talked a little bit about this in the past relative to FlowServe and discussions regarding an easement across their property that there has been some interest expressed, and another one of our major industries has also expressed similar interest to locating some things that would be helpful for their employees within the restricted industrial district. So Planning Director Gray and I had some conversations on this and went through, talked about whether, listing businesses by category or, we tried to think through like what would be helpful if, for the employees at our manufacturing sites in the district. What would be helpful to be close by. So the list is perhaps a little bit more permissive to start with. It could get whittled down if council chooses, but we felt like this was a good starting point on things that might meet what some of the managers of the manufacturers have expressed that would be helpful for their employees. So really, it's primarily service businesses. There is some retail in here, but things that service businesses, some food service, medical opportunities, things of that nature that might save, make somebody be able to, take an hour or two rather than having to, take a longer time to get in their car and drive someplace. Maybe they can walk to the, complex across the street, something like that. We have also had some conversation regarding solar energy as an ancillary use for the manufacturers. Multiple manufacturers have expressed interest in offsetting some of their energy needs with solar. And we have also had some contact regarding battery energy storage systems. They often go hand in hand with data centers. So we may need to make some more revisions to this, but we're still reviewing the state legislation regarding solar and battery energy storage systems. So I have not completely gotten comfortable with what the state preemptions are on those.
Just to clarify again, that's the preemptions that it won't matter what we do in this part as to what's allowed. There have been additional ones over the past General Assembly, and I'm assuming there's probably going to be more in the upcoming one.
So essentially we're being, the legislation requires that battery energy storage systems and solar generating facilities be permitted in multiple zones, and, it limits our ability to deny applications for those things.
Or even to structure code around them.
Right. And there are, within the state, and, if anybody wants to really dig into it, it's Senate Bill 931 and House Bill 1036 were the ones that focused on these items.
Say that one more time, please.
House Bill 1036 and Senate Bill 931. So they include, for example, distance requirements, setbacks, screening, things like that for solar. And they already basically lay that out. So for us to adopt something may be redundant, but I'm not completely comfortable. I've got everything from that legislation that I understand all of it. So I'm still working on that. So we may want to tweak this before we have the public hearing next month, if you choose to adopt it tonight or to introduce it tonight.
The idea is to introduce to essentially
kind of get the process started.
Fast track, but get started. Because again, it does still have to go to planning and zoning. But what happens is if it goes to planning and zoning first, then you guys have to do introduction, and that puts it off for another month for kind of adoption. The idea is to do introduction. If council has concerns or changes in between that introduction and the adoption, they can do that as well. But then we'll also hear at the workshop in November the planning and zoning feedback from the end of October. So this just kind of streamlines it a little bit better than us playing a tag with planning and zoning. Because let's say you guys go to introduce and you want to do X, Y, Z. Well, now do we send it back to planning and zoning after they just critiqued it before?
And I'll say, from a planning and zoning perspective, we've been talking about this for a couple of meetings now, so.
Yeah, you guys talked about it the last one, I think, too.
Yeah. So we're already vibing with this particular setup.
And part of the reason for putting this before you, before it's say, completely baked, is that we want to be able to demonstrate to FlowServe as we continue our conversations with them about an easement across their property, that, that we are, that we've heard their
We're being proactive.
their requests, and, that we are acting on it. So I think it shows a good faith effort on our part, that we have this going through our process. So the next time we have that conversation with the site manager, we can say, we've made some progress on the things that they're hoping for.
And it's
of
been-
course, these will benefit the district and other manufacturers as well.
Vapco and whatnot. But I will say, again, we've been in this conversation back and forth with Flowserve for a minute now, and I think we're getting to kind of the conclusion of it all. But the idea is we do need that easement for the future bypass, and especially the work that we're trying to do on the bypass, which is that southern part from 194 to 140. So again, just this is something we've been working towards, and is a crucial piece to actually completing that. The Antrim Boulevard over to 194 and then 194 over to 140. That's pretty much one of the most crucial parts of the bypass for Taneytown. One of the biggest alleviators for traffic that you'd have. So this is a crucial piece of that, and again, that's why we're so engaged in the conversation to try to get the easement. And the idea isn't that they didn't necessarily want money for the easement or anything like that. They want to be able to provide amenities and employee retention options, essentially. So.
And before we move on, I would like to just, publicly thank Planning Director Gray for his throwing this together. I've had a couple months to ponder it, but Andrew and I had a couple days to talk through it and hash it out, and for him to piece together a draft in very short order. So, I think we can expect very good things going forward.
He's here to watch
I
you
hear
guys
he's
critique
killing
his
it, so,
masterpiece.
yeah.
I was going to
Thanks,
say,
man.
and he was only on the job for like a day and a half before the pitchforks and torches of the last planning and zoning meeting, so.
Yeah, you were there.
I was there with you, yeah.
If you get a chance, Councilmember McCarron, check out the planning and zoning again. The director did great. You did a good job out there, especially for your first meeting in it was a week. Were you even in for a week yet?
No.
Yeah, I was
Second
gonna
day.
It was
say.
like,
2
yeah,
days,
2 days.
yeah, 3
It was
days.
2 days.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was on the job until I walked in that night. I was like,
That
oh, he
day.
started.
Oh yeah, he jumped right in. Did a great job. So again, he's back there watching you guys try to critique his masterpiece that he put together. So, but
Well, I think we ought to get into subsection, no.
So if you are comfortable, we could do a motion and vote to introduce it. Again, we have time to massage it a
And-
little bit, and there, of course, will be a public hearing, if we're ready for that next month before it would be adopted.
And just to reiterate to council, again, when we introduce an ordinance, that essentially starts the conversation as far as legislative changes and whatnot between the adoption meeting. So you have a month to basically get back feedback if you want something changed, if you haven't identified something immediate right now. So again, don't take it as when it's introduced that this is the final piece. You have a full month to provide feedback, adjustments.
Ask a
and
couple of questions.
yeah, feel free.
So.
Actually, Andrew, I'll let Andrew come on up. That way both Jim and Andrew can counter Councilmember Colin Uck.
Not countering, I just want to make sure I understand what's going on. So look, are we adding subsection B in there, the permitted uses section, or is this like a totally new like section of code?
No, sir. What we are proposing to do is for the restricted industrial zone, adding under subsection 20522B under permitted uses, you have all the permitted uses 1 through 13, and then adding a permitted use of 14 of the following combined retail and service uses not to exceed 25% of the total lot area. Uses contained in
What does that mean? Like when we talk about the total lot, so like,
Yes.
if this is are we saying of the entire residential industrial, or sorry, of the entire industrial district cannot exceed 25%, or like 25% of, like what do you mean by lot area?
The individual parcel.
Parcel, got it, okay.
And the reason for that is thinking of the city has their industrial zone and want to keep commercial uses out of them, mainly because you don't want commercial uses to overtake the industrial zone. So with putting that limit of 25% on there, that means you could have commercial uses that as we have here and for the council to ponder, we have uses that may be beneficial to corporations in the industrial zone. However, they would not overtake the industrial zone. And also, if I may, under special exceptions, under 4, we have the same language, and the reason those 3 uses are there is because with me and the city manager thinking of,
Sorry, where is this?
it is under
Going,
For section C,
section C, yes.
section C,
Section C,
number 4.
got it, okay.
Yes.
the blue text.
Yep.
Is, yeah.
The reason why those uses are there, and I've used this spiel a lot for uses of, you could say, habitation and for children. So really those uses, looking at those, keeping and making sure the industrial uses that are the predominant use on the property does not cause an undue effect on those uses such as daycare, hotels, and schools, meaning Board of Zoning Appeals would have a chance to review to make sure, wait a minute, okay, these uses are permitted, but we need to have a review, a review to make sure, should these uses actually be in this particular location, especially when we think of a daycare. I always mention to people, and even at my class that I teach, I apologize if I'm going on too deep here, too long, but when you have potentially, let's say, just using this as an example, don't think it pertains to Taneytown, but having, let's say, you could have a manufacturer or a fireworks plant, fireworks manufacturing plant next to a daycare. You theoretically, if it was the fireworks manufacturing plant was in the industrial zone, and the daycare use was allowed in a commercial zone, you could, but the Board of Zoning Appeals reviewing that, thinking, should that be there? Is that really comparable? Is having that use there?
Is it complementary?
Does
Is
it
that what
fit?
you're
Right.
getting at?
And would that cause a substantial burden to, I guess what's the word I'm
Kind of
When we
both,
look
wouldn't
at
it?
special exceptions, one of the things the board considers is, does this activity in this particular location cause any adverse impacts that it would not cause elsewhere in the district? So Andrew's example of the fireworks manufacturer and the daycare, that proximity, is going to be different, for a daycare being next to, the potential hazardous conditions and so on. So we would want to have the opportunity to look at those kind of uses on a case-by-case basis.
Right, very, very well said, thank you.
Additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, I am looking for a motion of introduction.
Motion to introduce.
Looking for a second.
Second.
That's fine, go Snake. Additional comments, questions, concerns by council? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries.
Thank you, council.
Oh yeah, thank you for coming up. Thank you for sticking around too.
Not a problem.
We have 2 resolutions up for adoption tonight. We have Resolution 2025-16, City Organization Chart. So this is a requirement, is it in charter or is it code? I can't remember. I think it's code actually. I think it's code under department organization is where it's required that we have a city organization chart. I know it's been tried to get completed multiple times in the history of this requirement, but we're looking to hopefully go ahead and get this done tonight. For the general public-facing document, the document essentially shows the positions without the individuals' names on them. This is basically the city structure. If you're looking, I'm going to cheat off your thing here, Harry. If you're looking at it, the dotted lines indicate where the body of council can essentially make direct requests of those individuals. So the body of council, for instance, can make direct requests of the mayor, the city manager, the clerk, and the city attorney. Those are all things that are permitted as direct requests.
Can you define direct request, please?
Basically, if the council was like, I want the city attorney at this meeting to answer this, they can make that direct request to them. They don't have to go through the city manager to actually coordinate that. That's
Have to act as a body on
yeah,
that one, right?
but
Like-
they do, yes, they do have to act as a body. Just for reference, there is no point where the city council gets to, there is no individual acting. This is the body of council. And same thing with the clerk. I would say the clerk is probably the one where you actually can have that one-on-one, hey, I really need this scheduled for this conference I'm attending, et cetera, your hotel schedules and stuff like that. But still, the same thing would be your travel has been approved or whatever. That's kind of where that body of council would come in. It's been budgeted. You couldn't just go to the clerk and say, I want to go to this if there's no training budget for it. There's no direct authority there. Same
Body
thing.
equals majority, correct?
Yeah, body equals majority. Where it mainly just is a consensus. So even, if at a prior meeting, the council was like, yes, we want all 5 people to go to MML, you guys have consensus as a group that you are going to attend MML. Next would be the council can make all requests that aren't contradictory to the charter to the mayor. So you guys can request things of me that aren't contradictory to the charter. Reporting, I guess, give me a performance evaluation of the city manager is something you guys could request from me, essentially. Same thing, city manager is the council's executor. What the council says that isn't contradictory with administrative directive, the council can request that of the city manager, the body of council. The city managers also should be the direct contact for individual council members and the body of council for staff requests, essentially. If you're looking for this report, if you're looking for that report, let's say the council's like, city manager, can you make sure the chief's here at the next meeting? The city manager is who that direct line of communication should go through. I will say, as an individual, let's say you're like, I want to talk with the city attorney. You'd go to the city manager for that. The city manager, he can complete those individual requests that aren't contradictory to what the body of council is doing, et cetera. But if you have an issue and you need to see the city attorney or you need an opinion, your first stop would be the city manager, because he's your guy as far as executing it goes. But anything that has to do with the city manager, for instance, a performance eval, et cetera, that's where you would say, Mayor, we want a performance eval on the city manager. So that's kind of, again, where those key elements come into play as far as where the council and the body of council directly links with those employees. But per our code and charter, there is no individual council members giving orders to employees. It's not set up like that in any way or form. The city manager, the department heads, and the mayor have that authority to give orders to employees. And obviously the department heads needed to be able to give orders to their employees under them. Other than that, it shows the supervisory levels throughout the departments. At first, we had it pretty consolidated of just the department heads, the city manager, but I wanted to make sure it was pretty comprehensive so everybody actually had a general idea of how this was working, what the supervisor positions were at the police department, how that flowed down, even at the wastewater treatment plant. Again, this should give you guys pretty much a top-down of how the structure is at the city, and this should give the general public as well if they want this document. We also have a document with the names that goes the names of each of these people who are appointed to these positions and fill the officer slots, et cetera. And then, there's one for contact information, which I'll go ahead and call the recall sheet. That's an internal document for if we needed to, go down the list and check on individuals, if anybody's familiar with a recall. But other than that, is there any questions, comments, concerns on the actual document?
I have a general concern with actually both these resolutions they're up for adoption. I really didn't expect them to be up for adoption tonight because of the shortness of time we've had to evaluate them. I would like to make a motion that we table these resolutions to another meeting until I've had a chance to look over them. I wanted to compare their former organizational chart with the current organizational chart. I didn't have an opportunity to do that. we're not talking about 2517 yet, but 2516, I just feel more comfortable if we could bring this back at a future date after I had a chance to look at it and study it and consider the ramifications of what we see here. I don't see any problems with it on the surface, but I'm just not prepared to vote yea or nay for this right now. I'd like to make a motion to table this resolution until the next meeting.
Is there a second on that motion?
So, I don't know that I can second it yet, but I mean, I do kind of echo his concern on the one resolution, not because I'm against it. Me and you have worked on this. But I know I've asked in the past to not be given something that goes on our docket the same day. Like, I think we got the water relief ordinance, resolution, whatever, earlier today, like it's in the middle of the workday. I mean, I haven't had time to look at it either. Like, I know I'm pretty sure I know what's in it because we chat about it, I think, briefly last night before it came out today, but
Yeah, I distributed some drafts individually to council members last week.
This has been an issue for some time, and I really haven't said anything about it, but we get these last-minute additions to the agenda the day or the day before the meeting, and I've got an entire other life besides city council. I don't often have time to get to do due diligence to these resolutions that come before me. The reason we publish the agenda 3 or 4 days ahead of time is so we can spend 3 or 4 days mulling over what we got. But when we get at the day of the meeting, it's just not fair. It's just not fair to the citizens. It's not fair to the council to have to make a decision based on what they've been able. That second ordinance, the 2517, I literally read 5 minutes before the meeting, and I've got some real problems with that. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about right now. But I just would like to have more time to consider what's before me before I make my decision to support it or to oppose it. And again, based on the surface, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't support it. But then again, I don't know enough about it. So.
And I guess that would be my only issue is that it's an org chart.
I don't have an issue with the org chart, but like I would like at least like 15 minutes to look at the water relief thing.
Yeah,
I haven't had time to look at it since I got it. Like, I knew what happened, I saw the email, but like I didn't get done working until 6:45. So
yeah, I guess my only thing is, again, it will push it off to November. I mean, I'm fine with that.
is that going to affect anything? Because I think this is supposed to go into effect.
Well, that's
next
the
year,
idea.
right?
Is it's supposed to. The idea is to hopefully try to have it for Q1 of 2026 calendar year. Again, I don't know what that looks like as far as pushing it back. Not a huge deal to me. I guess my thing would be it's really nothing too big.
Yeah,
and again,
I think it's a 25K commitment or something, right?
It's a
Total?
20. It's a 20.
20.
And again, there's nothing too extravagant to the actual resolution. And just because let's go back and focus on this first one, because we are on the first resolution. Again, my thing would be we're looking at an org chart. I don't know.
That one now. I don't have a problem with
Yeah,
that.
I don't know what more you'd have to do. If the idea is comparing it to the old org chart, there'd be no point to doing that because positions have changed. Jim, when was the last time the last org chart was adopted?
I couldn't tell you how many years.
Were you city manager at the time?
I don't think so.
So what, before 2020? So we have added more positions since then. Positions have been swapped around. I don't, again, there'd be no use to comparing it to the old one.
Well, again, I don't know that I have any objection to it. I just don't know that I don't have any objection to it.
And
No,
I think that's,
And that's because I've not had a chance to examine it. So to vote for something I'm not sure of is not something I like to do.
Clara, when did we add the org chart to the packet? Was it, what did it go out in the original packet?
I'd have to look
Was
back at
it?
my emails. I can't remember.
I thought we completed it on Thursday, because we made the additional changes to do the 3 separate ones with the names and the phone numbers and everything.
It was on the agenda, not provided on Tuesday. Well, I guess then there was council packet information happened. So yeah, so the org chart, our org chart probably was
I
Tuesday.
printed it off yesterday and with the intention of reviewing it, but have not had a chance to do it yet, so.
It was a part of the original packet. So that's my, gonna be my thing. If the idea is, you're not gonna send stuff fast enough, if I'm sending it the day, or again, if the staff are sending it the day that the packet is due, when we put it out that Friday, that's not on administration for it not having been read by Wednesday. Again, I'm busy myself between the businesses, 5 kids. I was at a conference from Monday till now. I got back today from a conference, and I still edited documents. I still read through the documents. So I get it, life happens. But the idea is every time we delay something, it's a month. It isn't just delayed till to tomorrow or 3 days from now. It's a month delay. So just keep that in mind.
The point is, the organizational chart is not something that affects the daily operations of the city. And a 30-day delay is not going to be a detriment to our overall day-to-day operations, is the point I'm trying to make.
It isn't, but the idea would be I'd like to move on to the next thing. If the idea is just to delay it another month, I'd want to know the actual reason. It takes maybe 3 minutes to look at the org chart. The water resolution, I think it's a page and maybe a half. It'd be one thing if we had a lot of legalese language in it, but it really doesn't. It's pretty straightforward, 20,000, 5K a quarter. Again, we'll get to that here in a minute, but it's kind of my thing with the org chart. If the idea is to get stuff done, and this is kind of the problem we had, previously, was we'd get to a council meeting, and again, the water resolution, yes, it was sent out today. I think I wrapped it up
Yep,
today.
that one wrapped
Because I
today.
woke up and wrapped it up in the morning. But there was, drafts. I don't think anything's changed from drafts that were sent out last week.
Did I miss a draft? I don't remember a draft.
I think I sent
coming
you a
out.
draft personally.
I don't remember seeing it. Might have. I don't remember seeing it though. I got Clara's email today though.
Yeah.
But if I can have 3 minutes just to read this before we do
Yeah.
the
Again,
other
I have no.
one, I don't.
We
I don't
can.
have objections to
My
it.
thing was we could sit here for 15. My thing is just to get it done so we can move on to the next stuff.
Yeah.
I literally have no qualms with pausing the meeting for 15 minutes for the review. I don't think there's anything in there that is upheaval-ish. So that's, again, I'd like to move on to the next items, essentially. It's not, I guess I look at it, I think of what we accomplished at this meeting, what did we pass at this meeting? What did we pass at the next one? I know we did the draft, and, we introduced the restricted industrial. Again, indifferent, other than that there's not much to these. Do we want to recess, pause for 3 minutes to review the org, or 5 minutes to review the org chart? Again, I just don't know, I guess, what the what the issue would be to hold it up for a month. And it's not that we necessarily need it. The idea is just if we're preparing it and we're doing it and staff time is being spent, my ask would be that we kind of get things moving.
The last org chart, just to answer the question a little more specifically, was dated June 2020.
Okay.
So, and if you'd like, I can shoot that over by email real quick for those of you that have your surfaces if you want to take a look at that.
What was the structure of it?
It was
Is it just kind of
mayor,
similar, mayor?
It just had
city
mayor,
manager,
dropped
department
down to
heads?
city manager, acting city manager at the time, and then it dropped down to the department heads and the information technology specialist, and then the finance department was dropped down under the treasurer. Under the police chief was the major police secretary and 13 police officers.
Want to see it?
You
Can I
can,
walk over and see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
where does council, is council on that one?
Council's not on here, no.
Okay.
Can you zoom out?
Trying to.
So again, technically, as far as org chart goes, it's mainly how the administration functions and runs, so council doesn't have to be on that, but it just kind of demonstrates the avenues for council to get, of where they can get opinion, where they can get their ask from.
According to this chart, we basically have no power over anything because we're not even on.
Yeah, but believe it or not, the idea is
This is
actually,
an improvement.
the idea is actually an improvement and expansion of what council, so
Do you want to see it, Jim?
he has the old org chart up. So we were actually, I believe we were more thorough on this one than the last one probably was.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Oh, yeah, so. So again, that's, my only thing is if I'm having staff spend their time and I get it, everybody has lives, but if I'm also spending my time, again, and this is why we have council meetings. I mean, we can spend 15 minutes here to look over something. It is not that big of a deal.
Yeah. I mean, my only, it's not even an objection, but I've said it before to you, I think privately, I think I've said it here, and I'm just echoing, Councilmember McCarron's point that, when we get something that we have to try and review, game out, think about, whatever, the day of the meeting, in the middle of the day, we don't have time to do any analysis or think through anything. I mean, again, in this case, I'm not against, any of the things, and especially like the water one. Conceptually, we've talked about it. This is something that me and you talked about even before the election.
This is something that
old.
goes back
This is from
before the
December.
election.
This is something that I've wanted for a while that I think is a really good thing. Just, it's irritating when it's like, I get it the day of, and it's like, man, I don't even have time to look at it because I'm working until 6:45,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's basically kind of what you're saying too.
Absolutely.
And again,
I also
I
want to
did,
move things
I did
and
reach
not hold
out.
things up stupidly.
Yep.
I
I did reach out to people individually last week on it, and that's kind of where my concern comes is that the only thing that has changed between the drafts that was sent last week to this week
The real thing about this is that not only are we hearing this for the first time, but the public's hearing this for the first time. And when the public gets wind of what's in this ordinance, they're gonna have a lot to say about it, I guarantee you.
No, it is
And
not
we
an
need to
ordinance.
hear that, we need to hear that from the community at large before we act on this. We need to have this aired among the community and have their comments received before we make a law about
And
it.
so I will, like I said, it has been on the agenda since last week. Draft copies were shared last week. The only thing that's changed from the draft copy last week to this week is that it says the Harry Mead Collaborative Water Relief Program. That is quite
Well, I
literally,
guess, Harry, you must have had something to do with it.
I'm just saying,
I
that is,
would have honestly thought it was from Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders myself.
That's why I thought it was funny to throw his name on it. Okay, but I will say again, like I said, the only thing that has changed from last week to this week is literally that title.
Yeah.
Nothing else has changed.
Where did that get sent out though? Because I mean, I know we talked about it, but.
Yeah, that was it. It was just individual reach out with the draft.
Okay, because the drafts didn't get sent out. It was just talking about it. That's that.
I also don't remember a draft being
Yeah,
sent
they're-
in, but like, it's been quarter end, so my life has been crazy since last Monday, so, you know.
And I will say, it's not that technically the water relief is on the 180-day legislative plan from May. It has been on the agenda since Friday.
But we need to have community input on this. We need to talk to the constituents that put us here before we can make a decision that is so off base from anything else we've ever done. I mean, this is completely unique legislation for the city. And it's, in my opinion, what's wrong with government today. This is the kind of stuff that gets us into trouble. This is why Washington's such a mess, or has been for the last 8 years anyway.
A 20,000 liability on the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I vehemently
year,
disagree with that characterization. I mean, this is government at its best, in my mind. Like, it's helping the most disadvantaged among
Yeah.
us.
And it doesn't even
with
automatically-
with
You know,
peanuts.
let me just say this, as long as we're going to talk about this. I'm the biggest advocate for helping the most disadvantaged among us. But I don't want my tax dollars being spent unless I have a say on who they're being sent to. That's the problem about that. That's the problem with the tax dollars I'm sending to Washington. There's a lot of those tax dollars that I disagree with completely.
Sure,
I
I'm
can do
with you,
nothing
yeah.
about it. We are not a charity organization. This isn't Caring and Sharing Ministries. This is a city government. Now, for years, and I've been proud of this. I was proud of this when I was mayor. We have been able to work with those individuals who had a hard time paying electric bills, work out payment programs, and satisfactorily get them complete and keep their water. Now, if we're going to start using taxpayer dollars to subsidize their water bill, that's where I'm going to draw the line. I would not support that in a million
Well,
years.
again, the money doesn't just go into the account. It is a direct match from private contribution.
Well, private contributions, I'm all for. If we could manage a fund from private contributions, I'll be the first one to vote for it. But when we match it with city funds, when we match it with taxpayer dollars, when we match it with my tax dollars, I'm gonna holler about that. And the citizens are gonna holler about that.
So I guess that's where I'm a little bit confused, right? Because again, we do everything from give 50%, grants that are given to the city to match a 50% disbursement to businesses for 50% work. And again, we're writing $20,000 checks to individual businesses to do that work. And again, that's good as well.
We are giving grants
That's
to
good.
individual businesses to improve their business.
That's good as-
To create more tax dollars. That's the motive. If the funds that we give the individual businesses to improve their businesses didn't create more tax dollars, we wouldn't give them. So, somebody that doesn't manage their money, who falls on hard times, and everybody is there once in a while, and I've been there myself. But it's my responsibility to pay my water and sewer bill every quarter. It's not the city's responsibility to do that. If someone was to be kind and generous and contribute to a fund where that fund can be used to subsidize people who are in hard times, I'm all for that. But it's not the city's dollars, not the other taxpayers' dollars that are going to do it. I've hollered for years that the enterprise fund of the water and sewer department, the utility department, needed to stand on its own. Because without that, if we subsidize that water and sewer department from the general fund, we're using the property owners, and that's where the most of the money comes from in our pockets right now to pay the water bills to the renters and the landlords. Actually, the landlords is what it boils down to. And that's not right.
And again,
Anybody's
I
going to
guess-
subsidize the people who can't pay their water bills. Let the landlord subsidize it, if that's what they want to do.
I guess
The
this
citizens
is,
of Taneytown.
I guess this is what confuses me, because again, it's not to say that we subsidize, but I guess that is the term. We subsidize many things in Taneytown, from dollar building leases to dollar building sales. We essentially we have given out property of the city for $1 before. And again, I think you were a council member at the time that happened, for instance. But I just don't get how a fund that matches private contributions is necessarily a bad thing, because the city is still collecting 50%.
comes from citizens that have no say in who it goes to or what criterion is used to determine who gets it.
It's being administered by the same people. The idea is for it to be administered by the same
That's
people
the
who
other
do
thing.
the programs at.
And there may be something that I missed in this because I haven't had a chance to read it thoroughly. But what is the criterion that allows somebody to apply to this fund? What do you have to do? You just don't pay your bill? Well, I had to take a vacation. I worked so hard. I took a vacation. I spent all my money and I can't pay my water bill this month. Can I get some of that fund money? Will that guy get some?
And I
What
think,
are the criteria?
and I think that's the idea, is to let a nonprofit that already administers programs like this in the county, for instance. This is already happening in the county.
We have an organization that's very well renowned in this community, Caring Sharing Ministry, that handles things like this. I'd be perfectly willing to say, let's encourage people to donate to Caring and Sharing Ministries to a special fund to help people with water problems or rent problems. All the parish churches in this community give funds to their members or to people who come knocking on their door, not necessarily their members, that have problems paying their bills, whether it's the water bill or the rent bill or the grocery bill. And that's their job. That's what the churches should do. That's what Caring and Sharing should do. That's not what government should do, especially not a small town government like Taneytown.
I mean,
It's absolutely
I disagree with you
crazy.
only on one point. I think one of the functions of government is to try and take care of its people. That fundamentally, if we're not doing that, then we're failing at our jobs.
And again, I think
And like,
Again,
I'm not saying free for everybody, right? But I mean,
yeah, we're not even.
But see-
small
but see-
contributions that are
You see,
peanuts
Nick,
in the
we
grand
have-
scheme of things
We have done that
don't
on
break
an individual
anything.
basis for years and years and years. We have done that. When somebody comes and Claire can testify to this, Heather can testify to this, anybody in the front office can testify to this. When somebody comes to the front office with a problem with their water bill, they sit down and they work out a payment plan so they can get back in
That's
in
fine
business.
too. Nobody's saying not to.
Yeah, nobody's saying that
nobody
can't happen.
subsidizes anything.
You're not saying anything that anybody here disagrees with on that front. Nobody's saying that somebody can't come in and try and work out a payment plan or anything like that. Like that's not even up for debate. So like I don't know why that was brought up, because again, nobody here disagrees with that.
And again, this is kind of my worry. Is it's no offense, but if we postpone something for 30 days, this is what the conversation is in 30 days, and then it's I want more time to think on it. And
If you
But
want-
I don't-
If you want to create a fund to where people can contribute to a fund to help people who are disadvantaged or are on times to pay their water bill or their rent or whatever, I don't know what they pay for with it. That's fine with me. But you can't use taxpayer dollars to do that.
And I guess that's what confuses me the most is this isn't anything new in the idea that individual residents, I think most people know this, but you subsidize plenty of stuff that you do not use individually. When you're paying a police department, I've used I think I've called the police department twice, maybe, in my time. But again, I don't know how much I pay there, but I'm sure there's individuals in the city who haven't had to utilize the police department. Do they get the overarching security from the police department? For sure.
That's a poor analogy there.
Well, no,
Poor analogy.
trust me, I got plenty more.
Police department are here to protect public
They are.
safety.
But again, there's
So you're paying the police
undoubtedly,
department for a job that they're doing.
yes, but there's undoubtedly people who use greater
People who have mismanaged their
portions
money
of
for
that,
whatever reason.
portions of that
Okay,
service.
hold
should
on.
not look to government to be bailed out.
Except that you already described a situation where the government is bailing someone out and we are subsidizing water bills. If someone is making a payment plan, we are subsidizing what they owe until they can pay to get it done. So
Well-
we're already doing
But,
a
but
version of
that's
this.
the point. They get it done. It might be an extended payment plan, but it's their money that's coming in from that plan, not the city's money.
Except the city fronted it.
Basically,
Because-
no interest
Basically, a
loan.
no interest loan.
No
but-
interest loan.
Yeah, so everybody has hard times once in a
So
while.
that's,
We ought to work
but
with
that's, but
anybody
that's
that's
what
got a
I'm,
legitimate gripe, we ought to work with. I agree with that.
but that's what I'm saying is that in the exact same way that you just said, the city has been subsidizing.
Yeah, and that's my thing, is that, believe it or not, the city subsidizes a lot of stuff.
Well,
that-
anything
I'm
that's
just
not,
saying
anything
with-
that's not a
I'm just
direct
saying-
usage fee is subsidized in some way, like, because not
Well,
everybody uses things
again,
correctly.
You do what you want, but I guarantee you that citizens are gonna be upset about this. And, again, this is something that's, I made a joke about Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, but it's exactly the problem that we're in on a federal level.
I mean, honestly,
It's the woke culture that is destroying our country today that we're bringing to Taneytown. And the citizens are gonna recognize that unless we give them a chance to have their say about what they think.
and I will say, actually, there's been 3 chances. The election, 3 of the slate candidates ran on it, a water relief fund, and it was actually described in those postings to the public before the election. Next would have been the 180-day legislative plan, which also described a water relief fund for people who are experiencing hardship.
Well,
And then this would be on the agenda now, so residents have had 3 different chances.
If you did that, that was a shame, because you didn't understand the problem.
Actually, we did understand the problem. We ran on it, and that is probably the single most talked back thing is about the water and people having problems. So it is probably the single most personal issue that is affecting the citizens of Taneytown right
Being on the
now.
water bills, yeah, that's right.
And
Those are the
that's-
biggest ones that I get all the
I'd
time.
argue speediness. Speeding is the number 1 thing I receive.
It
Next would be
costs-
water
it
bills,
costs-
though, yes.
It costs money to operate a city.
Yeah,
It
so,
costs money to operate a wastewater treatment plant.
and again, I'll be honest with you, I'd almost say I'd be willing to forego going to MML to fund this. Which is ironic, because again, the city spends, almost, I think the 1 year we went to the Aloft, the city spent over $10,000 for elected officials to go stay at the Aloft, which was done by the previous mayor and council before I came in. But that's an example of monies that could have gone to the residents, that residents subsidized basically a vacation for elected officials.
Well, again.
And not only that, it was
you're
kind of
missing
the same
You're missing
thing.
the whole point.
I'm really
The money
not.
that's spent away at a convention or a retreat is not money wasted, it's money that's made profitable for the ideas that come back and for the networking that occurs during those programs. It's worth $50,000, whether they spent $10,000 or not. One piece of information gathered at a conference can make or break a budget in a year. That's money well spent. It's education, it's continuing education for each one of us up here. And you can't use that as an example to become a charity organization. The city is not a charity
No, it isn't.
charity
But I
organization.
do want to talk about again, the subsidization. Yeah, I'm sure there's some people who go down to MML and use it appropriately, but I'm going to tell you, the first year where I went to MML, council members were showing up at 1 p.m. to the MML that had started at 8 a.m. Again, I don't know what they did. I think their explanation was, I've already attended all those classes at the beginning of the day, and then they left on that third day, so they attended maybe a total of maybe 4 to 5 hours of the total 3 days of MML. And again, I'm about to complete my academy graduation in MML. I attend the classes, I go to it, I get it done, but I can guarantee you now that there's no way that elected officials who have attended the same conference for a decade need to keep going to the same classes over and over again because the information doesn't update that frequently. And while I appreciate MML and I appreciate what they do, that is 100% a subsidization for elected officials to essentially go have a good time. And I will tell you, in conversations with those elected officials, when I changed the hotel from the Aloft to the Princess Bayside, I was actually told, this is our one time to treat ourselves since we don't get paid much. So I will tell you, yes, the residents have subsidized for numerous years elected officials to go to conferences that they don't need to go to. And the fact, again, I'd be willing for nobody to go to it. Hell, I'd authorize that, for nobody to go to it to pay a water relief fund for residents in a heartbeat. Because there is no amount of information in MML that overrides a $20,000 a year liability to help, again, some of our most vulnerable people. And I just don't get it, because the city subsidizes so much stuff. You just don't realize it because it's just not out there facing you. For instance, when we I'd consider this a subsidization when, for me at least, again, when we I'm not a big fan of speed bumps. We still do them because of speed, safety, and traffic calming, and it's part of the initiatives we're doing now. But if you put a speed bump out on Keenan, for instance, that's tax dollars that have been paid in to address a safety concern in a neighborhood that I really don't drive all that often. But you are subsidizing general public safety. You pay for a lot of stuff you do not directly use. And again, this isn't even, we're not just putting money into that fund. This is a direct contribution to basically charitable donations to it. Heck, I'll put the first $1,000 into it. I just don't, we spend so much money on so many other things, and I think back to my years of fighting with the council, and
I think we're starting to get off track here.
Very much so.
I apologize for opening this can of worms. I have since been able to read this, and I'm fine with it. If we can...
Well, technically, we're still on the org chart, believe it or not.
I know. But
That's fine.
while a lot of that was happening, I was scanning the
I think
the doc.
I think you have a motion on the floor that was waiting for a second.
Oh, yeah, the table. Is there a second on the table? Of the
org chart.
Of the two resolutions, I think the table is for both resolutions. Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion fails. Going into adoption, Resolution 2025-16, City Organizational Chart. Looking for a motion in regards to it.
Motion to adopt.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, Resolution 2025-17, Water Relief Fund. Looking for a motion in regards to it.
To adopt.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council?
Meeting, this ordinance needs to be shared with the public before it's approved.
It's a resolution,
It's not
not
Making a
an
big
ordinance.
mistake here.
It's not an ordinance.
It's a resolution.
Yeah, it's a resolution allocating $20,000. More is spent without council approval on contracts and whatnot.
There is no checks and balances in this resolution whatsoever. It could be opened up to, maybe only your cousin's gonna get benefit of this fund.
Well, I think that's the
Your next
issue.
door neighbor will get benefit from this fund.
I think
It has no
that's
restrictions
That's
whatsoever.
That's the issue with the
That is the
current-
whole point of having a
Yeah.
nonprofit
Whoever
that's not
feels like
associated
applying for it,
with the,
whether
That has
they-
no
whether they
association to the
deserve it or
cities.
not, has to be considered.
Again, that's
Are we gonna be given the structure for how this will work when it's closer to going into effect?
Of all the bad
Yeah, I have a-
legislation we've passed in the last 2 years and a half, this has got to be the worst.
Sorry for that.
We've passed a bunch of bad legislation.
Are we gonna get briefed or
Yeah,
some
there's
kind of
there's an executive memo
materials?
that goes over the administrative implementation of this.
Yeah.
It's pretty much exactly as laid out there. The guidance is to reach out to a third-party nonprofit for the actual,
I would really like to get a legal opinion on this, if we can even do this. Can we get some kind of legal person to weigh in on this before we put it in law?
the council could ask for it. But currently, there is a motion with a second on the actual adoption of it. Again, on the discussion front, I mean, I don't know what you'd say, that the city can't allocate $20,000. I mean, there's no legal opinion needed on that. We do that consistently all the time. The only thing here is basically a resolution outlining how this is meant to be used. I mean, that's really all it is.
It's also a maximum. It's designed as we had said before, a matching, so that when the private funds come in, that's when we match to help the fund out.
So for all we know, 4,000 comes in, 8,000, or 4,000 comes in, $4,000 match from the city, a max of 8 for the year.
Or if zero comes in, zero goes out.
Correct.
In which case you won.
Yeah, that's correct. That's the entire point, is it isn't just throwing money at it. It is a contribution match. And again, we have
This is
very,
absolutely asinine. That's the only way I can describe it.
we have
Asinine.
we have very similar programs that are matches, and I believe they're good things. It is good for that match. I just don't. And again, I know back when we did same thing, the water reduction. You were against that as well. We are being asked for relief on water from the residents. That is the ask. We know that is the ask.
Tim, was the answer to my question yes?
You're going to use our services, you got to pay for them.
Fine.
You have to live in the city. You can move outside and drill a well, put in a septic system.
I can certainly, if consensus is to, keep you informed of the progress on this and how it's going to be administered, certainly we can keep you in the loop on that.
I would
Yeah,
appreciate
I
it.
mean, you guys will get
Yeah.
the
Plus the administrative burden that it's going to cause.
You guys will get the executive memo essentially right after this meeting. It has, and the header for it, it is to the city manager and the council. It is basically you guys seeing how the implementation has been instructed to the city manager, which is basically the same as the resolution. It's very simple. Again, we're not even technically really administering it. The idea is to set up basically the ability to proxy administer it through a nonprofit who, to Councilmember McCarron's point, they're not going to be a nonprofit in the city per se. They're not going to be, well, I know your brother, yeah, you're approved. How we currently do it at the city, you come in, our people work with you. Some people get it, some people don't. I'd much rather that be in the hands of a third party.
Yeah, I assume we're going to have some kind of a memorandum
I
of
don't know
understanding
that-
for how it's going to be administered. We're going to have access
Has
to
a
it, so we're going to be able to see it.
legitimate hardship has been turned away.
And me and Jim talked about that again, what that would look like, which would be some kind of memorandum essentially with the
yes,
organization.
The front office works with a number of not-for-profit groups already, referring people that have difficulty with their water bills. So my intent, assuming this is approved, it will be to reach out to, one of those groups, who is already vetting,
Currently working with us.
individuals, as far as whether they can get some assistance if funds are available.
Yep.
To
We're just giving them a
establish
multiplier
to
effect,
establish a
basically.
separate fund and basically, administer that just like they currently administer the funds that they have available now.
Yep.
So I'm hoping we can just work out a memorandum of agreement with one of those organizations,
That's the word.
to establish a fund dedicated to Taneytown residents for water and sewer payments.
Yep. So we had a motion and a second.
Yep. Any additional further comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay.
Nay,
Carries.
underlined.
I can put a
That's fair,
asterisk
that's
for
fair
you.
enough. Can you put like lots of exclamation points next to it, please?
And again, I do want to reiterate that the principle and theory behind this has been technically been discussed multiple times. It was discussed throughout the election by the slate who basically ran on this. I've talked about it before. It has been on the 180-day legislative priorities from May. And then again, it was on the agenda from this Friday as far as discussion. Nobody is, I'm looking at the crowd, but I don't think either of you guys are here to discuss the water relief fund. So, yeah. Again, citizens can always reach out with concerns. You know, my email is cmiller@taneytownmd.gov. I think everybody knows how to reach me at this point. The council members, they're on the website as well, taneytownmd.gov. You can find their contact information if you have concerns to reach out to them. Jim, I'm heading to the city manager report. What you got?
Try to be really quick this evening. So just a couple updates on the ongoing projects. Charter and code stuff, we introduced the Streets and Stormwater Facilities Manual last month. We would like a little extra time for our consultant engineer to go back through and review some of the manufacturer specs that are included in there, just to make sure everything is still current for those manufacturers. And also, there's still some ongoing debate with regard to street widths and the hierarchy of streets. So, some council members have inquired about the street widths, so we want to do a little bit more, have a little more conversation from the public safety angle of that, as well as, from the stormwater management perspective, and see if we can come up with the best compromise that we can. So certainly, there are opinions both ways. Narrow streets are better, wide streets are better. All depends on what you're looking for out of it. And, we need to come up with the balance that we think is going to work the best for the city and the residents. So, but it's one of those things that you're kind of darned if you do, darned if you don't. But we're going to spend a little more time on that and see if we can hit the right compromise on street widths. Let's see, so,
Well, and the whole point of that is because the width and really the width to length, all of those are factors that go into our costs.
exactly.
Right, they're liabilities, and if you have a extra super wide street, it's very, very expensive to maintain in the long haul. So that's something that I
It
know-
also,
I know I've talked
entices
to
people to
both of you
speed.
about it.
I mean, that's kind of,
That too, yeah.
mean,
It becomes a drag race, yeah.
yeah.
I will, maybe this is a bit of an extreme example, but our parking spaces are 9 feet wide. So is it realistic to think that somebody can operate a motor vehicle within a 9-foot space?
I think
You
a
might
good
be
amount of
able to
us
do
could.
that
I
at
think there's a
20
good
miles
amount
an
that
hour.
couldn't
I was
though
going to
as
say, are
well.
we doing that currently in Meads Crossing? Because it
But-
feels like it.
But I guess the question,
I've been hit in a parking lot a couple times.
the point that I'm trying to make is, how wide does a travel lane need to be at, and we are moving towards a 20-mile-an-hour blanket, speed limit throughout the city and residential streets. Does a street upon which we want people to drive 20 miles an hour need to be 38 feet wide? Does that 38-foot wide street result in people driving faster because it's a nice wide street? If you have a pinch point between two parked vehicles on a one-way street, you're probably going to slow down because it's narrow. And if you have 4 feet on both sides, you're not going to slow down. So I think narrower streets do slow speeds, and that's what a lot of people want to see. But
do
people
those
also
pinch
want the
points.
ability to park in front of their house. And if they can't park in front of their house, they feel sometimes slighted. Then we also have snow clearing issues. We don't have to push snow that often, but when we do, you would be amazed at the volume of complaints that come through. You plowed in my driveway. You didn't get close enough to the curb. You got too close to the curb. You threw snow on this. It's amazing, the complaints we get whenever we push snow. But wider streets give us a place to push the snow. But if cars aren't parked on the street and the street is narrower, we can still do the job. So there's a lot of factors that really tie into it. You know, we could go with narrower streets. We could make snow plowing work effectively if we could get people not to park on the streets during snow events. So there's a lot that really needs to be thought through on it. And I'm not trying to overcomplicate it, but it really is not as simple as it might sound. And as you said, cost. You know, with wider streets comes more stormwater management that, okay, a developer builds it, but we maintain it once it's deeded to us. Every time we have to pave it, you know, we're paying for, you know, however many more cubic yards of blacktop if we have a 38-foot wide street instead of 36 or 32. So all that really needs to be factored in, so.
And I think we've talked about that. Again, one of the priorities I think we've had so far for council has really been trying to figure out how these, if there is residential development, how it doesn't become a strain in the future.
Yeah.
And again, I think this is a perfect example of things that could be looked at for it. But I know we got a planning and zoning guy here. I'm sure he'll.
So we'll be
Relay.
we'll be continuing the conversation at planning and zoning and getting some more feedback there.
Yeah, I know I've talked to Mr. Parker, like, one thing I would like to see a little bit more of from planning and zoning is also considering the financial implications of the things that we're doing, because these end up becoming basically indefinite liabilities to the city. I mean, if you're taking on a really expensive liability, that might not be good for the fiscal health of the city in the long run, so.
I haven't gotten a chance to yell at developers yet for houses. Give me time.
I'm waiting.
Give me time.
All right, moving on, we already kind of talked through the restricted industrial text amendment. Stormwater, Riffles Lane is complete. We are going to have to go back to one property in the spring when the ground is softer and try to roll out some depressions in the yard from construction vehicle tracking that, you know, when everything was done, the ground was just so hard because it's been so dry that there was no point in really, there's no practical way to smooth it out for them. So they were agreeable to the idea of the state just coming back out. Public Works will go back out with a roller and roll the yard to kind of smooth it out and do any seed and tack that needs to be done at that point. But for all intents and purposes, that one is finally done. The Westview Drive water line is also complete, and the grading permit's been closed on that one as well, which is good news. That means the grass is grown in adequately for the grading inspector's satisfaction. And the sewer manhole rehab work actually began on Monday, so they're out there rehabbing the manholes ongoing. So that's moving ahead, and hopefully that will make another dent in our I&I reductions. I think that's about it, unless there's any questions.
Additional comments, questions, concerns from council? Anybody?
Nope.
Did you have anything additional to add on department reports, Jim? I'm guessing not. You kind of went through it all, so.
Yeah, again, I can field questions or get answers to you if anybody has questions on departmental reports.
Oh, actually, I had a question.
Is it well
DPW
15?
Well 15, yeah. I think in the DPW report, I noticed that like well 15 is looking like it's struggling. But was it something about it shut off? And I think DPW, where is it here? He said, recommend moving to mandatory water ban. Changes for well 15 was that we needed to turn it off for the foreseeable future due to lack of rain. And something about a $5,000 a day fine if we violate allocated permits. So like, help me understand what's going on with that well. I get it. I get that the drought has caused like the well levels to go lower, but are we at like serious risk of like running dry in that well?
Jim, I'm gonna talk
who's
on it
that
first,
well
and I'll let you.
affect?
So again, I was on a 2-hour phone call with our wonderful city manager today, before he hung up on me right before the 2-hour mark. But, so, we are definitely seeing a usage increase. We're seeing more water than we're expected being used currently. And I know the city manager was running some reports today and this week to try to figure out, again, what those usages are looking like. I've asked him to look at an additional report, which is essentially whether we're seeing that spike on commercial usage or residential usage. Because again, if the idea is, the commercial usage is 3% up, if the residential usage is 3% up, but the commercial usage is 20% up, our, idea of a water usage restriction, putting that out there to people is not going to be very effective unless we're actually going to the businesses. Unless we got to identify who is actually using it.
Yeah.
Because again, if it's residents, then yes, it would be effective to try to send out and get that message out. But if it's businesses, we're gonna have to directly interface with those businesses. So I've asked them. I want to make
Have
sure
that data? Like they know where the water's being directed?
they haven't done it yet, but they're able to split it up into those two sections.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's what we talked about today, whether to really go over it at council or not today. But my thing is I want council to be informed of whether it is a commercial usage or a residential usage, because I really want to make sure if we send out a message, it should be the right message. And again, I want to make sure we're targeting either residential or commercial as far as who needs to kind of bring it back a little. Because again, one of the problems we found was that there was a leak at the Vapco evaporator. And that was using a lot of water essentially. And I think we talked about this at the last meeting. They're still looking for something that is off. Some of the suggestions have been, is it people watering lawns? That could be it. Is there some kind of more industrial use that we're not aware of going on? And again, that's why I've asked them to break it down further. Because we can issue that at any time. That's basically an executive memorandum. Council doesn't issue that. It comes from the mayor's office. If you look outside on the sticky board out there, you'll see Mayor Brad Wance. He has a sticky on there saying, please calm your water usage, essentially. And that's what, when me and the city manager were talking, if we see it still tracking to where that usage is still going up, we'll probably issue that at some point this month. But I think you said, Jim, that currently it has kind of leveled off.
It has dropped down from September. It has dropped down from where we were in August as far as our pumping numbers. And, as the mayor said, he and I spoke about this. I was compiling some figures just at a system-wide level that, in that conversation, as the mayor indicated, he requested that we break it out more with commercial versus residential, which I hadn't done. I was just looking at it system-wide.
Sure.
I think, Director Smeek has pointed out the risk of exceeding permit. And they have put us on notice basically because we have, on that permit, we have pumped some of the wells above the permitted limits. Now that was after conversation with a representative at MDE who is no longer there. So
we're not given that
trying
benefit anymore.
to work with the department to, since we do have wells that are turned off because of PFAS contamination, we want to be able to maintain the water pressure and supply for the residents. So we're hoping to be able to get their blessing to pump some of our wells harder, even if it may exceed permit temporarily due to the PFAS contamination and the other wells that we're not using.
Probably a dumb question. Do the individual wells only service particular areas, or do they all go into like one pot and that's distributed to everybody?
We don't have it centralized.
Right, it's not everything goes up to the standpipe or the elevated water tower, but it also has to do with, which wells are pumping at the moment, who has a tap open in their house, so there's always some flux with it, but I think it would be, but a number of wells pump directly into the distribution system. So, but, exactly how that water flows at any given moment is going to be depending on, which well is pumping and how much pressure that's putting, who has a tap open, what houses are using water or what businesses are filling something. But, it does go directly from wells and the individual well house and treatment facility into the system. So there's not like a centralized, not everything goes to the tank or the standpipe and then comes back out. So, I think it would be a reasonable assumption that, for the wells that, I'll use Carroll Vista as an example, there are 2 production wells in the Carroll Vista community. I think it would be reasonable to expect that a lot of the water that Carroll Vista residents are using is coming from those 2 wells because they're sort of isolated from the rest of the system.
Yeah, they're their own
to a
hamlet.
degree. So if they're using water while those pumps are running, they're probably getting water directly from those wells. If they're using water, and those wells aren't pumping, it could be flowing out of the elevated water tower back to Carroll Vista. So all kind of depends on what's running and who's using, at a given moment.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Thank you.
Sorry if it was a little wordy.
I talked to Randy yesterday at length about this and pointed out that in Carroll Vista, there's a lot of automatic watering going on. And he kind of blamed that as being a big part of what we're neglecting to monitor. And I think if we focus on things like that, I don't know how many other irrigation systems there are in town or not, but if we talk to the people who are automatically irrigating their lawns, ask them to restrict it a little bit, that would probably get the biggest results of anything that we could do. Water bans historically, I have found have been less than successful, but the fact that we covered a little bit in September, of course we had almost 4 inches of rain in September, which would help us a lot. We had 4 inches of rain in October, but didn't get much this last couple days. But I think that if we're doing the right thing is what I'm saying. We need to pinpoint where the water is going and who's causing it. There was a catastrophic leak at Avapco. And that's got to count for some of it. And there's the automatic watering systems in Carroll Vista, and I don't know whether Antrim has automatic watering systems or any other place around town. There probably are residences that have automatic watering systems too, but we could kind of identify those and maybe target those people specifically to say, hey, look, we're really struggling with the water right now. How about not watering your lawn and something like that? I don't know what
it was fairly evident when I drove around with DPW a few weeks ago, before we got any real rain and everything was still brown. You would go brown, 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 green, brown, brown, green, brown, brown. It's like you could tell who's watering their lawns. A little harder now because everything came back, but
And
And again,
we have had a higher than usual number of leaks identified in the last couple months, and some of that is after the meter, some of that's before the meter. So the before the meter is racked up to water loss. Say it's between the, and we've had instances where it's a service line for an individual dwelling that's leaking, or an 1.5 inch water line that ruptures can lose a lot of water in a day. And we've had situations like that, as well as the issue at Evapco. But what we're seeing is, and we've done additional leak detection readings around the city to try to identify things more quickly. But what we're seeing now is that the pumps are still running longer than usual, and we're like fighting to keep up during the day, but then after a point in the evening, when I guess people are, going to bed and not using water and not watering their lawns, the wells can stop pumping, the pressure comes back up, we stop pumping, and if we had a major leak, that, we would have to continue to pump to maintain pressure. So we think we have caught up with the leaks at this point, but it really does seem to be a usage issue, that there's just a, for whatever reason, higher than typical usage.
And again, that's why I've been stressed to the city manager today that we need to narrow it down a bit. Because if the idea is to just issue a blanket, hey, stop using it, it's not going to do anything for us. I'm going to tell you now, most people aren't even going to acknowledge it. But if we identify where it's coming from, the areas that it's coming from, residential versus commercial, et cetera, we can actually, again, target where we're seeing those usage increases, try to figure out why we're seeing those usage increases, and actually try to make contact with those areas. At this point, I think we currently have a water advisory. It's been up since however long, but most people don't even know it exists because, again, it's just a blanket, hey, please conserve. Targeted to where you're actually looking at what is causing it is a lot better.
Data drives informed decisions. I get it. Yeah.
And again, that's the thing is we don't want to have this be ineffective and it also be ineffective if we have to do it in the future.
Yep.
So, again, Councilmember McCarron, that's kind of the same thing we're looking at, is trying to narrow it down. Because like Councilmember McCarron said, those blanket notices, they don't do much of anything. So the idea is if we see it on a track that isn't looking good, that we're not going to meet permit, we're just going to go ahead and issue it. But if it's the city manager said we are seeing a little bit of stabilization. So if we get to November, I'd like him to present that data to council. So again, we can kind of make it more informed of how do we need to contact people, who should we be contacting, et cetera. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep. Additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, I am proceeding forward to old business. Approval of revisions to general specifications for street and stormwater management facilities construction. City manager already touched on that. Again, it's currently delayed while they're reviewing it some more. Up next, under new business, monthly financial report. Anybody have questions, comments, concerns on that? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion in regards to it.
Approve.
Looking for a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have accounts payables. Any questions, comments, concerns in regards to that? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion in regards to it.
Motion to approve accounts payable.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Carries. Up next, we have the 180-day resolution update. Most of the items on the list are currently awaiting something else to happen. Some of them we're waiting for staffing to free up, for instance. I will tell you, I'm actually thinking, the one thing I forgot to do is I had notes and I forgot where I put them in the hectic sea of this week. But, just going down the list, for instance, the newspaper part, again, we're kind of looking to see what happens with the Emmitsburg Journal on that. We were in contact back previously during the summer. Currently, they're having issues as far as actually getting the monetary support from local business advertising to actually kick that off in Taneytown. We did the attorney stuff back in May. Jim, are you able to pull it up real quick? I should have brought it with me, but it's been a day.
Yeah. I bet.
I had a paper with it, but I didn't even bring my keys when I got here, so.
While he's bringing that up, how about signage? That always seemed like an easy win, but I think that's been held up for a while.
Jim, I couldn't remember. Did you talk with you talked with Andrew a little bit on the signage part, right? I think that's who you said you talked with. Just some initial talks on basically the idea of.
So the ordinance that was passed a while back, that one?
No. We're talking about the welcome signage.
signage.
Oh.
The 180. mean, that's kind of I think we could really knock that out at any time. I think the one question is the idea, the one that we want over by Sheets would be almost Hoffman Farm property, so that,
Yeah, I think that the ideal location for that would be with the property across the street from the Sheets at the roundabout. So it's actually on the right-hand side as you're coming into town, rather than as you're exiting town. So, there has not been a formal concept plan submitted, but we have been talking with developers, for that property. So I think that we'd like to incorporate an easement area for a welcome sign when that property develops. And maybe we can get the easement beforehand, but I think until they are a little farther along with their layout plans, they're going to be hesitant to commit to a certain location.
When we say
until
the
they-
developers, are we talking about, what was it, the Taco Bell, or is this something?
No,
future potential development on the Hoffman
the,
Farm.
Future
yeah,
development.
the
Okay, got
parcel
it.
to the east of that, closer to the roundabout.
Nothing's been presented on it yet, though.
Oh,
Okay.
right. I mean, we've seen some sketch plans, but,
But we wouldn't want to
you know,
install
nothing-
something, then have to take it up, essentially.
Right.
And that's kind of, I'll be honest, that's kind of the same situation with 194 to where the Mountain Brook entrance would be there. I have a feeling if we place anything now, it might feel a little out of place when they go to do that, and kind of the same when it stretches around, because you got to remember that almost the entrance and exit to that city part is going to stretch out just a little bit. I will say, one that would basically be more where nothing's going to happen anytime soon would be towards Littlestown, for instance, or the way in from Littlestown into the city. We could place that, and that we're not going to have to take that up anytime soon, for instance. Thank you, Jim. If only I had a tablet. I'm just kidding. I don't need this thing. I don't need technology. Updated street specifications, that is ongoing. A funding commitment to municipal advertising, ongoing. City attorney did that. Establishment of Main Street Committee. Bob Jones has been
Sorry,
working.
what do you mean, did that on city attorney? What?
That's where we already changed the requirements and the structure of the city
Got
attorney.
it,
We did that one back
Yep,
in May.
yep.
Establishment of the Main Street Committee, Bob Jones is working on that. I know he has initial names, and again, he's been kind of working on what that framework goes, so that is in progress. The Welcome to Taneytown sign, again, that's kind of on hold as we kind of look at what developments are doing in that area. Charter and code language to implement 8 years for mayor, 12 years for council, along with citizen petition mechanisms. That's been an ongoing, I think the initial drafts, and again, we've shared some different drafts on this individually. I think, the 8 years and 12 years is in the resolution. That's where we're going with as far as those terms go. The idea is not to adopt that individually, though, but do it as part of the charter repeal and replace. And it was on the agenda for this month, but it has been a busy month. So the idea is to have that for November, would be introduced, about 2-month waiting period before adoption for the timeline of the charter. So you'd be looking at adoption for January probably, but introduction November. And again, that introduction to adoption period, that is your edit period essentially. Acquisition plan for equipment to weigh and stop trucks, including officer training compliance procedures. I know we talked about this on a couple different items, but it's kind of looking what the what our additional public safety funds might look like later into the year. Draft legislation for election reform, that's going to be included in the city and charter repeal and replace. The idea would be basically to charterify most of that and keep it protected in that section. Right now, a lot of that stuff was in code. And the draft that I'm leaning towards, it's more of I'm trying to think of the best example would be Sykesville. They have a pretty simplified election guidance. Ours is more, I shouldn't say complicated, but it more directly reflects the state, and I know that was the intent when they originally adopted that code, but that doesn't work very well for a small municipality, in my opinion. I think that's how everybody felt from that last election, essentially. So the idea is to go away from necessarily a state election kind of format to more of the municipalities that we're seeing in the area around here. So again, that'll be in November. Training and budget for committees. I'm going to commit for November, but it's going to be in an ordinance format. So it'll be introduction in November, adoption in December. Creation and funding model for water relief fund, including administrative intake. The only thing that's changed here is originally we were looking at the anonymous council presentation. I think everybody's talked about that. This board not necessarily approving that, but that going towards a nonprofit. Well, I mean, we just did that, so. But I think our original resolution had it to where it would be presented anonymously to council, and they'd approve or deny based on merit. For
okay.
the,
Yeah,
water
yep,
part,
yep,
yeah.
yep.
Again, that's changed as things have gone on. Proposal to separate administrative and legislative, add 6 spot, designate mayor pro tem, retain executive authority, mayor's office for budget administrative leadership. Same thing, that's gonna be in the charter for November. And if that goes through and council likes and does their adjustments and that is adopted in January, for instance, the idea would be to fill both of those council spots at that January meeting, so we don't have to go back out. Because again, I don't think there's a point for us extending another 3 months to go back out, and that person's period would be a year and 2 months at that point. So the idea is to try to fill both in that January if the charter changes are adopted in January.
How many applications have we received?
Actually, is that on the list for updates, right? No. So we've received one application, and you guys, I think everybody on the council was shared that application when it came in.
Yep.
So you guys are aware of the one application we have right now. There has been interest from other individuals who have contacted the city clerk, asking,
But nothing official.
but no, yeah, no official paperwork filled out. So, street interconnectivity and sidewalk plan with the goal of ensuring all residential areas are connected. The city manager has been tasked with trying to get basically a general budget of what that would look like to connect our streets that don't have sidewalks currently. And one of the bigger taskings is trying to figure out a mechanism to connect Carroll Vista to Trevanian. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic that basically walks from Carroll Vista down Trevanian into town, goes through Grand, et cetera, on their walks, runs, whatnot. The idea would be to connect that by some kind of sidewalk system. And that's going to be a broader talk that we'd have to make with the county as well, and the property owner.
Property owners.
Yeah. Ordinance establishing public safety committee and expanding charter code review body into a city advisory board. That's going to be in the charter part. The idea that I've been kind of working towards is how you guys are liaisons currently. That's going to be expanded into the charter part where it's actually be chartified that you're liaisons, but each person, the liaison for the department, is also going to be the representative for a committee related to that department. The Department of Public Works, Department of Public Safety. Department of Public Safety, for instance, tasked with ideas like what streets need speed bumps, what streets need more crosswalks. We had an earlier version of that in the city, which was, that one was more of like a citizens watch group, I guess, the citizens action group that Daryl did back in the day. So we've had kind of a form of that. But again, that'll be in that initial charter, and whatever council wants to change it to over that 2-month review period, that's their discretion. Formal plan, resolution to transition emergency dispatch. We are waiting for a date to go before the Board of Commissioners on that. They've received a letter, indicating that we'd like to be there, as well as the chief and the sheriff, as far as to make that case of why we should come over to the dispatch system. Previously, it had been that they wanted us to pay for additional dispatch officers because of our load. Again, we don't believe that is the case. We don't believe we have enough load for having to pay for 2 officers for them to hire for dispatch, and neither does the sheriff. And so far, commissioner support is looking good, but I know we're waiting to get on the agenda for them. Proposal to establish criminal investigator career track within the Taneytown Police Department. Again, on hold, waiting to see what our additional public safety budget might be. Preliminary recreation community center plan with grant research. I know I have talked to people individually on some items we're currently working on in that regard. So I know some people are aware of what we're trying to work on, but that is currently on the back burner as we're working towards looking at what options we have for DPW building and stuff like that. Salary, same thing, waiting to see what public safety budget. Framework in partnership with nonprofits for elderly resident assistance, including criteria and administrative process for delivering basic home care, snow removal, lawn maintenance for elderly and disabled individuals. The idea behind that would be a similar resolution to the water relief. So imagine water relief, but segregated for this specific purpose. The idea would be to basically look for a third party who could do the actual, okay, this person, is eligible for the criteria to receive help. I really don't want to put that burden on staff to decide who should and who shouldn't receive help. I believe there's better organizations that are suited for that. So again, currently waiting on a couple different things, but I think November, you're going to see the bigger part of the charter. And again, you have a 2-month period before that can even be adopted. So feedback after that, 2 months. If it does get adopted in January, 2 council nominations in January. So additional questions, comments, concerns? And again, I know some people have sent me, again, their suggestions to throw in there. They've been thrown in there. Don't hesitate. If you have ideas for an initial presentation, and then from there, council can basically workshop of, again, what they want to edit and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's everything on that. And then we'll look to basically do a dedicated workshop in either February or March to establish what the next criteria of stuff that, the legislative plan of what people are looking to do, because that does give staff direction on what items they should be working on, other than us just kind of ballparking and waiting to get to council and the spur of the idea, hey, maybe we should do this. That kind of just gives us some guideline over the months. And I know I've talked to the city manager now that we do have Andrew and we have Mackenzie, Bob's on. The idea is to start expediting some of this stuff. And part of it was staff. I mean, Jim was pretty much handling 3 jobs for a hot minute. So now that he is able to take some of that off his plate, I think we're able to spread some of the taskings around. That's all I got on 180 though. Additional comments, questions, concerns by council? So if there's one thing I didn't get out, and I've been trying to make a note of doing this for the future, is a narrative regarding nominations to the commissions and whatnot. It was just not feasible today. And this person had already applied previously for the Parks and Rec Board. When he originally applied, I think there was a little bit of a miscommunication between me and Lorena. She thought I had put him onto ethics, but he indicated he did not want to go to ethics due to some of the how controversial it can be. He doesn't want to do that kind of confrontation that ethics might have to do. So he'd prefer to steer towards Parks and Rec. I'm trying to think. I really wish I would have prepared that today. This is the one thing I wish I would have got done. Man, why am I? Again, it's basically filling the one slot that Mackenzie freed up when she became the executive administrative assistant. So it's just refilling that board. Additional comments, questions, concerns? It's a standard commission appointment. Hearing none, I am looking for a motion in regards to that.
What kind of motion exactly? Motion to approve, motion to nominate,
Motion to appoint.
motion to appoint?
Yeah.
So moved.
Looking for a second?
Second.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns by council? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried. Council member reports, starting with Councilmember
Nick.
Nick.
All right, so we've got the Memorial Park expansion. Arrow submitted some revised plans to State Highway that included the sidewalk to St. Joe's down to the park property, as well as revised plans to County Forest Conservation. We are awaiting review comments from these agencies. Program open space grant funding has been approved and encumbered by the state. This will add about $43,000 to the grant funding we'll be using for the project. We also had the annual Harvest Festival that was held on September 27th, and that was well attended and enjoyed by the community. Thank you to everybody who came out, and many thanks to Public Works for handling the hay rides, and to our event volunteers for their assistance. Gifts and Gratitude Walk is, what's today? Today's the 8th. It's this Saturday. At Bollinger Park at 10 a.m. This free event starts with a 15-minute guided meditation and includes a free set of mala beads to mark moments of gratitude on the walk. in case, Then we have the Birds and Bourbon at Bollinger Park on Saturday, the 18th, from 3 to 5:30. Tickets are on sale on Ticket Leap for $25. This is limited to 20 participants. Bollinger Park will be closed during the event to ensure attendee parking availability and as quiet an environment as possible for the bird watching walk. We also have Tales of Taneytown at Memorial Park on Saturday, the 25th, from 3 to 5 p.m. This will be running at the same time as Thunderhead Bowls Trunk or Treat. At the Tales of Taneytown, there will be a pet parade and pet owner costume contest, a petting zoo, glitter tattoos, a DJ, trunks loaded with treats, and free hot dogs. So there will be something for everybody. And all of the pets are welcome. Let's see, we have the Halloween decorating contest and photography contest that are still open. Pictures for the photo contest can be emailed to Lorena. There's no limit to the number of entries, but the deadline is on November 1st. If you'd like to register for the Halloween decorating contest, also please email Lorena. The deadline for that is the 15th, which I believe is in 1 week from right now. The Parks and Rec Advisory Board members will be judging entries in both contests and will announce the winners the first week of November. Prizes include gift cards from local businesses. And the next Park and Rec Advisory Board meeting is next Wednesday, October 15th at 6:30 p.m. That's all I got.
Councilmember Mead.
A spirited discussion was had for 3 hours at the last planning and zoning meeting. Well, I'm going to give you a few of the highlights. McDonald's presented a concept site plan where they're going to drop the current building, build a smaller building, a slightly smaller building, and do some weird things with parking, and they seem to be relying upon the shopping center for overflow parking, which currently exists as the employee parking for the most part, but there's no formal arrangement, so we allowed us how that they needed to actually have a formal arrangement with the shopping center in order to have in order to make sure that because they were looking for a zoning variance for parking spaces. They have a lot of spaces that are designated for like the drive-through bump out or for the drive-through overflow and the pickup and where they car hop it out to your car, and then they also have looks like DoorDash maybe spaces, and anyway, a lot of parking spaces, not quite as many as they should have, so they're looking for a variance on that. They're going to be coming back after they talk to the shopping center. The great Taco Bell debate happened, and there was many issues brought up about possible traffic issues. Hopefully some of those are being alleviated by the speed bumps that are being installed currently, not technically as we speak, but they are happening right now. The concept is for that the plot of land across from McDonald's that used to be a service center is going to be divided. It currently is divided front and back. They're going to rotate it 90 degrees so it's divided left and right. And Taco Bell is going to be on the left side with a road that goes out onto Amicus, which caused all of the consternation. And then the other side is restaurant to be determined. They are working on getting someone for that. Evapco had their off-site parking lot, and they are expanding that, and we said, have a good time. Taneytown Supply actually put in a preliminary plan approval, so we are looking at that as the hardware store that's going to be over on Antrim, just past the Ford dealership. So that is good news that is moving forward. For the active projects, the only one I was going to talk about was Memorial Park and the fact that it got put in, but you said that, so I'm good.
Councilmember McCarron?
I did spend some time with Randy yesterday going over the Public Works last month or so, and most of the time was spent on the wells, so I'm not going to rehash that, and the water issues that we have been talking about, but he did also point out that they're addressing the manholes, they're resealing the manholes to prevent inflow with some epoxy paint or whatever it is they use, epoxy, to keep the water flow from coming into the manholes. He's saying praises of the new truck that they bought last July that is saving them a lot of money and a lot of time. They really love that it's in use every day and have accomplished a lot so far with that truck. So that's very good. Randy was anxious to get the new utilities facility moving, and I understand that, and he understands why we're not. So everything seems to be in order that way. So I guess the main concern is right now is if this drought continues, what we're going to do about our water supplies, because there is a real danger that we could be fined for overpulling our wells. So that has to be addressed. We just can't wait till it happens. So something that we need to keep and focus. I'd encourage you to read the report, particularly the county hydrologist report, that'll kind of give you a perception of what's going on around the county. It appears that our section of the county is the one that's the hardest hit, and it's something we just need to be aware of and concerned with. While I have the floor, I just want to mention that we're continuing to meet as a 250th anniversary America committee. We had a meeting Monday, and we had a new member join that committee. I've had some advertising on the Facebook pages and the museum pages and so forth, so I encourage you to talk that idea up. We've got a lot of good things planned. Mr. Bowie presented a couple of logos that we should look at to consider, and the committee really didn't like either one of them, so he'll probably write another bad letter about that. But they are. We did get some ideas. We'll use the basic information from his design and then kind of amplify it. We thought that we wanted to emphasize the agricultural heritage of Taneytown and maybe use the logos that he came up with and enhance it a little bit with a farm scene or a plowed field or something like that. But when we get it put together, I'll give it to the council to let you take a look at it. Bob went out and visited former Economic Development Director Nancy McCormick, and she came up with a 250th anniversary of Taneytown flyer that she had stashed. And quite frankly, there's a lot of good ideas in here that can expand the rest of, we could add to the rest of things. So we're talking about a lot of stuff that's going on. So things are progressing, and I'm glad to see we're getting a little bit of interest among the citizens anyway. But we'll keep you posted on that. We kind of focused our 250th anniversary in Taneytown back in 2020, or 2005, 4, okay. Yeah, 54, okay. So that was a long time ago. And month of August, or there was 1 week in August where everything happened, so that was a big deal. We got a lot done during those days. But anyway, we'll keep you up to speed on what's going on with that. We talked about Memorial Day parade. We talked about the event on the city parking lot, and inviting reenactors. And Bob's got a lot of good ideas. I'm very excited that he's on our team. I think he's going to be a big benefit to the city. And, you know, let's say what you want about Frederick. Frederick's kind of the poster child of successful city. So any of that stuff we can steal from Frederick, I'm not opposed to at all. So I think and the fact that he's been involved in some of it is even a bigger help. So, and not only that, he has connections with businesses in Frederick that invite over this way. So everything's lining up really, really well. I think I look at the staff, the quality of staff, not that our quality of staff was poor in the past, but the quality of staff that we have now is certainly up to the challenge, I think. So I'm looking forward to good things in the years to come. So that's something I'm proud of.
I was like, who's humming into the mic?
Like somebody revving out there?
Thank you, Councilmember. So I will fill in for Mayor Pro Tem Miller since she is incapacitated. I'm going to go over the Taneytown Police Department in-service training continuing education units annual. I'm going to be pretty quick here because I'm exhausted. Annual taser training at the Taneytown Police Department, instructed by our certified taser instructor. Specialized training. A Master Patrol Officer Sacadelis attended the TAC Ops East Tactical Training Conference in Arlington, Virginia. This event was held from September 3rd, 2025 to September 5th, 2025. While at the conference, Master Patrol Officer Sacadelis attended the following training courses listed below: Firearms Instructor Development Workshop, Ballistic Shield Operator Surveillance and Tactical Operations, Building Clearing Tactics and Strategies, and Tactical Threat Recognition. On September 17th, 2025, SPO Myers attended Law Enforcement Response to Suicidal Subjects. The 8-hour course was hosted by the National Tactical Officers Association and focuses on the legalities and challenges that law enforcement face when responding to suicidal subjects. On September 24th, 2025, Sergeant Schultz and Master Patrol Officer Sacadelis attended Elements of an Active Shooter hosted by Inlets in Annapolis, Maryland. Multiple instructors/speakers were involved in the course, including members of the FBI and the Frederick City Police Chief. This course covered topics of active shooter incidents from start to finish, including officers' initial response to treatment of victims and their families. On September 25th, 2025, Master Patrol Officer Sacadelis and SPO Myers attended Field Training Officer Refresher course in Sykesville, Maryland. This training is required to keep their FTO certification so they can train new officers hired by the Taneytown Police Department. On September 26, 2025, Master Patrol Officer Sacadelis attended Metaverse, Blockchain, and Web 3.0 Challenges for Law Enforcement. This was an online webinar hosted by the Northeast Counter-Drug Training Center geared toward the metaverse and how criminals use it to carry out their illicit activities. The newest member of the Taneytown Police Department, Officer Klezak, completed the 80-hour field training program for laterals from September 15, 2025 to September 25, 2025, and is now ready for solo patrol. We had a total dispatcher-generated calls for service of 485, total citations issued 13, total adult arrests 8, total juvenile arrests 7, total warnings issued 126. Community outreach September 7th through September 10th. Chief Baker and Major Mitchell attended the Maryland Chief Association and Maryland Sheriff's Association Professional Development Training Seminar. The seminar was very informative and the networking opportunities were very valuable. September 9th, Taneytown Police Department personnel participated in the annual back-to-school event at Taneytown Elementary School. This event welcomes back students and their families and helps get them connected to the community services and resources. On September 11th, Taneytown Police Department personnel attended the Taneytown Middle School 9/11 Memorial Demonstration, placing flags in silence while remembering and honoring how profound this event was in our country. If you haven't seen the pictures of it, it's pretty, they do a really good job with the memorial out there. On September 30th, Haley Ingalls was happy to partner with the Carroll County Health Department to support local families with a car seat safety check event on Tuesday. Certified child passenger safety technicians were on site to inspect car seats, help families with proper installation, and ensure caregivers left educated and empowered. I will also go ahead and do just a brief economic development part. Me and Economic Development Director Bob Jones were down at the Main Street Conference That was Tuesday and today. That was hosted in Easton, Maryland. So I know he got back in town at like 5 or 6 and then came over for this. Other than that, the information down there was good. I addressed with some of the instructor, or I shouldn't say instructors, but I guess people hosting the seminars, engaged in, how do we do that outreach as far as drawing people in from Gettysburg as a tourist attraction when Gettysburg is one of the biggest tourist attractions. They said they're going to be reaching out here soon with the city to try to figure out there's some grant opportunities to kind of bridge that gap as far as how to bring people from Gettysburg to Taneytown. Another interesting one that I participated in was one talking about elected officials and how to get their buy-in on basically Main Street initiatives, just as kind of an overview of what that seminar was. But, I did bring up the discussion of how do we get the value that we're looking for out of the program with the money that we're investing into it? And how is it not just, give money to businesses and hope we get the result when that's the ask? How do we get them to buy in on something that's a bit different from that? And again, whether one of those things we talked about was whether to push those people individually to organize as a group as opposed to the city being the leading horse on the whole thing. So it was a lot of, it kind of gave some of the situations we had in Taneytown. We discussed a little bit back and forth, and one of the biggest things, that was acknowledged is it is hard to bridge that gap between personalities, especially when you're dealing with a group such as business owners who do all have strong personalities. You need a strong personality to really lead a business. So I didn't find the solution to what I was looking for, but it was definitely a discussion. I got some good networking contacts there as well. I know Bob, he did a whole bunch of stuff down there. He got to do some of the cool tours and whatnot. And I know he found some contacts. He had lunch with Secretary Jack Day as well while he was down there, and met some of the META staff while he was the Maryland Economic Development Association staff while he was down there. Other than that, the other thing is, we got the check disbursement for the Legacy Community Legacy Program to the Bollingers who are currently working on 1 York Street. How that program normally works is you go ahead and do all the improvements and then you get reimbursed for up to half the cost. Just making sure I'm describing that correctly, City Manager. So they got a reimbursement of about $23,000, but that building is being renovated to become a restaurant. So that's something that we could potentially be seeing here in the future. They were excited to get that disbursement. It's a program we continuously run. We have other individuals who will receive disbursements from that program as well. Again, I know Bob's still been working on the Main Street stuff. He's been reaching out to individuals who would be good people for that board. And he has been making the rounds to different businesses and trying to get them involved.
I think in his report, I think he noted he has 3 individuals that have committed to, serving on the interim board.
And I know he has a bunch of names. I'm not sure if those are just the 3 he's got so far, or if he has reached out to everybody on that.
I think those are the only 3 who have committed.
Yeah, because I know I thought he had more than 6 names when I saw that list initially. So again, the idea is to ad hoc that board essentially for the startup, and once it's kind of developing and working correctly, then we'd bring it into some kind of legislative code. And that's not to say that maybe they ad hoc and they figure out as business owners they can just go ahead and lead the way of what they're looking to see. I don't think anybody's directly opposed to that either. Yeah, I think that's all I got for economic development. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the order? Trunk or treats. A lot of trunk or treats going on in Taneytown. If you're interested in those, make sure you be on the lookout. Other than that, I'm looking for a motion of adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Looking for a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. We are adjourned. I'm so